episodes of Judy Brown. Happiness is a choice. We're happy you're spending some time with us, Chip and Zay. We are bringing it to you from 2 to 4 here on the Midday, Texas Sports Unfiltered. Zay, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Happy hump day, everybody. Feeling good, feeling great. Chip, how are you?
Oh, man. Getting ready for my trip to Athens. Excited about that. We got a great show for you today. We'll have our man Hank South on at 2:15, and then a little Chris Hummer for us on a Wednesday. You know what I'm saying?
Hell
And
yeah.
you know, all kinds of newsy nuggets in between. I like what we're well, what's your gut instinct right now, Zay? About Saturday?
Hasn't changed much. I think Texas has a legitimate shot to go to Athens and win this game, even though I'm not picking Texas to win this game. And, coming off of just the momentum that you had on that Virginia game a couple Saturdays ago, their defense looking good for 3 quarters. Your offense looking good for 3 quarters, but we all saw what happened in that 4th quarter and getting back healthy. The bye, I'm so curious and eager to see what this bye week leading up to this game means, because for Georgia, this is their 3rd straight game, coming off of Mississippi State and Florida. So Texas, are you going to be able to keep that momentum up that you had against Vanderbilt in that last 4th quarter / overtime against Mississippi State, specifically offensively? Or is it going to take you a while to get back in the rhythm of things, which this ain't the team to get back in the rhythm of things on, or to try to get your groove back? We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it Monday. You need all 4 quarters to get her done against Kirby Smart's Bulldogs. So I do think this Texas defense is the best defense Gunnar Stockton and Mike Bobo has faced all year. But there's just something about Stockton. There's something about Kirby Smart. There's something about Sanford Field at nighttime that I give the slight advantage to the Bulldogs and just that comfort there. But I do think that 16, this could be one of them games, man, where he proves to everybody that, that guy y'all were talking about before the season, I'm that dude. It just took a while for y'all to see it. And he's been slowly building up from the Oklahoma game where he played well to, Mississippi State 4th quarter before he got knocked out, to the Vanderbilt game where he had his best game of the year. It seems like it's coming together for Arch Manning. So if you're a Texas fan, you feel great about that. But like I said, Glenn Schumann, now we got to worry about Will Muschamp. Now, Will Muschamp, he wasn't there last year, was he?
Yeah, he was, but he's not doing as much with this team because now his son is a quarterback at Vanderbilt. His other son was a walk-on at Georgia. So Muschamp's not doing – he's still listed as an analyst on their staff. But from what I'm told, he's not doing as much because he wants to be able to go see his son not play at Vanderbilt. I mean, he's the backup to Diego Pavia, so he's not,
Supportive father, though.
Yeah, supportive father. He's going to the games. He wants to be there for his kid.
Yeah.
But he's there. I mean, he's an analyst, and I'm sure he's taking some notes. These guys are all trading notes. Like Lane Kiffin, they scored touchdowns on their first 5 drives against Georgia. Ole Miss. Sark's wanting to, I'm sure he's looked at the film. He can see what's going on, but That was impressive what Ole Miss did. I mean, no wonder Lane sounded so moribund after that game. He was like, "Oh, we had it. We had it. We had them. We had a chance." I mean, you score 5 touchdowns on your first 5 drives against Georgia in Athens. Hell, you probably should win that game. But you watched that game?
Yeah, watch that game back. Trinidad Chambliss was running all over the place. He was making plays with his arm, and we all know Arch Manning, he has the ability to utilize his legs and become a threat that way. And they've struggled with that a little bit. Like, go back and watch the Alabama game. Ty Simpson, he did a good enough job with his legs, and that's not necessarily meaning running for first downs. That's just keeping plays alive and improvising in the backfield, especially in the red zone. Ty Simpson, he was good in the red zone and made some big time plays to give his team the advantage and obviously end up winning that game. So that's why I'm giving Texas a chance. And I think Arch Manning could do the same things. But I also think those Georgia teams that played Alabama, that played Ole Miss, that played Tennessee, I think they're a different team than they were then. And just like most Kirby Smart teams, once November comes around, that's when they start figuring stuff out. And that's what's dangerous if you're Steve Sarkisian and this Texas ball club.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how these guys are all, Arch said on Monday that he and Ty Simpson are they text and
yeah, because Ty wants the Oklahoma scoop. Like, Ty's
right.
over there like, yo, what went down with Oklahoma? Y'all did well. Give me the 411. Arch is over here like, yo, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Give me the 411 about Georgia. That's what's the beauty about Manning camp, that quarterback camp that they all go to. Certain guys, develop friendships to where once this season comes around, you could possibly benefit from that, as we see Arch and Ty Simpson are doing. So, yeah, Arch, whatever Ty needs, if Ty needs everything that Brent Venables likes to do, give it to him. Give it to him. You know what I mean? Like, I have no problem with that. Like, that's the friendship I appreciate, Chip. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that friendship. We said that on Monday. We love love. We also love friendships. The whole Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian thing, I can't get on board with that. I am sorry. I can't. It's Wednesday. Y'all probably think, oh, Zay, maybe you've had a change of heart with your bogus, stories and whatnot and your crazy ass mind. No, it hasn't changed, y'all. Sorry. What the hell you texting me for, Kirby? Don't you have a game to focus on?
I mean, there's no doubt there was some gamesmanship going on there. Then that's good, man. That's what makes rivalries, those little side stories,
Yeah.
When there's some extra salt, throwing some pepper, maybe some Tabasco sauce in there, it makes it better. And I mean,
and I'm going to be honest too, Chip. I don't know how Oscar Delp isn't the first tight end taken off the board. I know Eli Stowers is a big deal. I got to ask Drew Fabianich about Oscar Delp because the more and more I watch, this dude's incredible. Like, yeah, he ain't Brock Bowers, but there's a reason why they recruit tight ends the way they do. Like, they just find these guys. They're athletic. They're fast. They got good hands, man. Like, thank goodness, which I don't even know, like Lawson Lucky, you want all hands on deck as a competitor, but that's just one more MF to worry about with Lawson Lucky and him going out in the Mississippi State game, being on concussion protocol. I don't know what his availability is going to be, but all of them, the 6'7" freshman, Williams, That's a
Ooh.
5-star. Where they get these dudes from, man? And I get it. Like, you see Brock Bowers killing and all that. You see all these tight ends. They're involved in the run game. Like, Oscar Delp is a complete tight end. He's not just a wide receiver. Like, a big reason why this running attack for Mike Bobo is so successful is because these tight ends, they're more than one-dimensional. And they're willing to get their heads in there and make some things happen. They got freshmen on the offensive line that are really good, that a lot of Georgia fans question coming into this year. I know y'all getting tired of me praising these Bulldogs, but yeah, I'm going to give respect to high-quality football. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they've been for the last 7 years or so. Like, I saw the photo. Packers played the Eagles on Monday night. There's like 10 Georgia players that took a photo in that game. Like 10 of them. They all taking a photo. There's like 4 wearing the Packers gear. There's 6 wearing Eagles gear. They're taking a photo. I saw someone comment and said, damn, this looked like the whole 2021 team right here in one picture. Just like, they got guys, man, like Oscar Delp. I respect. He could play.
Yeah, he can play. I mean, he had a key block on the 59-yard touchdown run by Nate Frazier, and he had the key block on Zach Branch's 19-yard touchdown catch and run. So, yeah, those dudes. And how good is Elias Williams, the 6'7", 255-pound freshman? They're playing him with Lawson Lucky and Oscar Delp already, on the team. I mean, you'll see some 13 personnel. And, Mike Bobo, he's doing a good job of getting everybody involved, getting everybody touches, and their running game is surging. They're averaging 227 yards rushing, 5 yards per carry the last 3 games against Ole Miss, Florida, and Mississippi State. So, but that's what Texas does best. I mean, stopping the run. And if they can stop the run, including Gunnar Stockton, then they're in this game. They are in this game until the end. And then it might come down to a field goal. I see this game going either way, 27-24. Could be overtime. I mean, I think if the Texas defense does what it does, locking down the run, getting pressure, playing, don't get behind. Don't get into a situation where Arch is having to throw all the time. They need this game to go exactly like the OU game, period. So Steve Sarkisian's had 2 weeks to prepare. He knows what's up. He knows that this is the SEC championship game. Basically, everyone's talking about how he can't beat Georgia. Everyone's talking about how he's 2-6 and, against AP top 10 teams or whatever since taking over at Texas. Okay, well, there was some Alabama in there. There was TCU in there in 22. This is a different team. And Arch Manning, this dude's starting to come to life. He had to go, dig it out at Mississippi State. Now he's got a better offensive line. So let's see how that goes. Let's also bring in our man, Hank South, MVP, managing editor, horns247.com. Hank, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, good. Man. We are fired up and ready to rumble. So, Hank, some of this, and you all wrote about it today, the recruiting battles between Texas and Georgia. Most recently, Tyler Atkinson, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that. And, how these two have been, going at it on the recruiting trail in addition to the field.
Yeah. What's up, CB? No, it's been, ever since Texas crossed over into the SEC, it's really felt like this has kind of been a little, not a rivalry. I don't know. It feels like there's a little bit more, back and forth between Texas and Georgia. And I think a large part of that is, obviously they're playing each other. This will be the third time they've met in the last 2 seasons this weekend. But the fact that Texas is getting more active in terms of just recruiting the Southeast, they've expanded their footprint on the recruiting trail, and it started, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. They're very active in these regions, and particularly Georgia. You look in the last few cycles. I mean, they've gone out there. We just mentioned Tyler Atkinson. That was a guy that, I think throughout the spring, maybe more in the fall of 2024, it seemed like, Texas was really deep into it for him. But, as we rounded into 2025, it was more of an afterthought that Tyler Atkinson was considering Texas. All the buzz was, Xavier Griffin. They wanted to get him. Even Braden Rouse, the linebacker that ended up committing to Tennessee, that was more of the buzz. But as we got into summer, Texas stayed after him. I know Johnny Nansen went out to see him in May. They that week before the final official visitors weekend in June, they were able to get him on campus. And prior to that, the belief was he was going to visit Ohio State that weekend, and Texas wasn't even really in the conversation, but he decided to visit Austin. And from that moment on, Texas just started trending for him. And we learned a lot more about him and the fact that, he had been working out in Austin with Derek Johnson, former UT great. And obviously, he had been to Texas a few times in the past, but he was really enamored with kind of the development of Anthony Hill, what he's been able to do. And obviously, just, really liked the program and everything it had going for it, and the need for linebackers as well in this class. So, up until his commitment day, I think people were still thinking Georgia was going to get him. How are they going to let this elite 5-star linebacker, maybe one of the most college-ready prospects in the country, leave the state of Georgia? And Texas was able to get it done and kind of pulled out the rug from under him, similar to that of, some other recruitments we've seen in the last few cycles. But yeah, Tyler Atkinson, in terms of 2026 recruits, that's the biggest, Texas, Georgia, interchange we've seen so far.
Yeah. Hank, describe Kirby Smart for us, because obviously your time covering Alabama, he was the DC for Nick Saban for all those years before he took the gig at his alma mater, Georgia. We know Kirby's earned a lot of respect around college football. When you win national titles, it comes with it. But just talk about, what makes him so special and what makes these recruits want to play for him so bad.
Yeah, I think just, his attitude towards everything kind of rubs off on the recruits, on the players. It starts with the recruiting. I mean, he's a relentless recruiter. I think what makes him different than a lot of people is, like, I think he truly loves recruiting. And I think that, I think, that kind of, you can see that in kids kind of gravitating, wanting to visit Georgia. The winning helps, but I think a lot of the things he learned from Nick Saban have probably, found their way into the Georgia program. But I mean, he's very engaged. He's competitive. It's not like a burden to every weekend in the spring you need to have guys on campus. Like I know in the spring, I think in May, they do kind of like a scavenger hunt where, he gets engaged with the recruits that are on campus. And, I should say on top of that, I mean, he hires a really good staff around him as well. I mean, you see Glenn Humann, who's been his DC for a while. I feel like he's on head coaching hot boards every offseason. Their tight ends coach, he's had Fran Brown, who's at Syracuse. They've got they have a really good staff around him, and so I think that obviously helps prop him up a little bit as well. But I think he's just really engaged coach. He's competitive. He's fiery. He can give a really good pregame speech or halftime speech. And, I think one of the best things you can say about him, and you can kind of look back at this, last year in October, is like, he can make, Georgia can be the best team in the country for the last 10 years, and he can make them feel like they're the underdog in every situation. Like, I guarantee you he has Georgia thinking they're the 5.5 point underdog this weekend against Texas. So I think he just does a good job of getting these guys ready to play.
Yeah. Kirby's we're hard to kill. Won't go away.
Yep.
It's it could be the quote that lives on, or maybe Texas is saying we're hard to kill on Saturday night between the hedges. Hank, what do you think? What gives you confidence that Texas can go to Athens and get this done?
Yeah. What gives me confidence is that they're starting to hit their stride, and you can look at the end of the Vanderbilt game. I'm not judging them too hard on the fact that they had, down to third string defensive backs in there. You're playing a Heisman Trophy contending quarterback who's, they're going hurry up. They're trying to score as fast as they can. I'm not going to fault Texas as much on that. They were in control of that game. Anyone who watched that full game knew that was a Texas blowout. You take that from, kind of the band together win against Mississippi State in overtime. And it seems like they're starting to hit their groove. The offensive line seems like they've figured some things out. Arch Manning's passed for 300 yards plus in the last 2 games. They're not turning the ball over. So everything they've hoped to do to be playing their best football by the end of November is kind of starting to show. So that's what gives me optimism. Georgia is obviously one of the best teams in the country, but in terms of their defense, it's not a typical Georgia defense. I think in terms of just pressuring the quarterback and just kind of a relentless defense. They'll give up points, and so I think with the receivers and the connection, Arch Manning starting to find more rhythm with them. Emmett Mosley's back in the fold. I think there's going to be opportunities where if this offensive line can continue to play the way they've played the last couple of weeks, Arch is going to have time to make some throws in that secondary. I think guys are going to be able to get probably more open than they would in years past against some of these Georgia defensive backs. So that's what gives me confidence. At the same time, Georgia, they're you could maybe make that argument for them as well that they went and played beat the crap out of Mississippi State in Starkville, which Texas wasn't able to do. I don't know if it's transitive as much as that, but we'll see. But I think the fact that they're starting to find their rhythm, and everyone's healthy too. I mean, as healthy as they're gonna be available. This is the first time in over a month that they're gonna have Taff and Jelani are gonna be able to play. Mosley's back. The running backs are healthy, which has been a huge boost to the offense and kind of their connection. So that's where I'm optimistic. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm picking Texas. I should add that. I don't know if I'm picking Texas.
Right.
No, I'm right there with you, Hank. Yeah. You look at this Georgia offense and, Mike Bobo, it's all about the run game, and then he gets you with play action, and that's kind of what they're doing with Gunnar Stockton, who's an absolute gamer. Chip and I have been raving about him all week. But you look at this Texas defense matching up, and I'm not, like you said, Hank, all the injuries and stuff, I think this Texas defense is just not what we've seen or what we became used to these last 2 weeks. Now Mookie Taft's back, and I think it's going to be an absolute battle and very difficult for Georgia to move the ball. Do you see the defense making enough plays to come out of Sanford Stadium with a win?
Yeah, I think they can. You look at the Georgia's offense, and there's not. And this has been typical for Georgia. I mean, they've always had, like you said, they've always had a strong running game. They've always had, elite running backs. But in terms of the wide receiver position, they've never had these star players. They're all just guys that are kind of bought in, and certainly guys that can stretch the field. But you look at Zach Branch now, and even he, for as explosive of a player he is, he's not you're not seeing a lot of Georgia highlights where he's burning down the field and beating defenses over the top. He's more of kind of a get the ball to him quick, and he he's going to make plays in space. And so that's where I think Texas can really, and we'll see the tight end position can get you beat too. Obviously they've had really a lot of success there, but Texas starting the season was really strong tackling, a really strong tackling team. And if they can they can wrap guys up and get to the ball and be able to stop plays when they make contact, that's going to be a big advantage, because I don't think Georgia's equipped to really a lot of explosive play, kind of over the top stuff. So if Texas can keep everything in front of them, we'll see how they want to deploy Anthony Hill and what Taft brings to it all. But I think they can match up well with them. again, and like you mentioned though, like Stockton's a gamer. Like I was even saying, like, you look at their stats, and of course, like, Bowens and Frazier are their leading rushers, but right there behind them is Gunnar Stockton, who 5 yards a carry. He has 7 touchdowns on the ground, so even he can, run the ball a little bit, and they can maybe get creative with that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But Texas certainly has to really emphasize the tackling and keeping everything in front of them.
Hank, the college football playoff second set of rankings came out last night. Texas moves up 1 spot to number 10 with BYU losing to Texas Tech. Any thoughts on the Longhorns positioning?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fine. The only thing that confuses me is the Notre Dame ahead, and I think that's kind of everyone's one gripe with it, I guess. A 2-loss Notre Dame, with really no. I think what's their best win? I don't even remember. It's nothing. USC, which it's a good win, but Texas has 2 top 10 wins, but they're I guess kind of kicking them with the Florida loss a little bit, but that's the only kind of real question I have with it. But again, Texas can, if Texas can do it, if they can win these games, like that, none of this even matters. Like if they're able to somehow find a way to win out in November, they're whether they win or lose the SEC championship game, they'll be in the playoff. And even if they split these two, against A&M and Georgia, they're still going to be in the picture. So yeah, that's where I'm at. With Texas in the CFP rankings, that doesn't really matter. I think next week's ranking will be a little bit more telling. Depending on if Texas is to drop this game, how much are they going to ding them with A&M still coming up.
Yeah. Hank, talk about the recent decommitments from the 2026 and 2027 class. I got people hitting me up saying, "Oh, maybe them Sark rumors to the NFL is true. Look at the decommitments." And I'm just like, let's hold our horses. The decommitments happen all the time. It's the Wild West. We know that, but talk about that a little bit and what's gone down with that.
Yeah. So Taven Epps, I'll start with him. He's the 2027 linebacker. I had people reaching out thinking he was a 2026 recruit. But no, he's a 2027 linebacker, really, really good player from California, originally from Texas. So that was kind of the connection to the program. But he decommitted, and we've written, he committed last spring. I forgot what day, but he's been committed for a while. But it's never really felt, and we've written this, like it was hard to really consider him a commit because he joined the class, and then I think he visited about 12 other programs throughout the last 6 or 7 months. He's been Bama, North Carolina, Ohio State. Like, he's been everywhere. And to my knowledge, he was not back on campus this fall. So, it makes sense. It was hard to even really consider him a commit. I think, he got excited on a spring visit, like what he was hearing. Obviously, Texas was coming off a strong season, so he joined the class. But, I mean, that's kind of the story with most early commits is they commit, then they keep getting recruited, in this NIL era. Kids get, not saying this like an Epps' case, but kids will get paid a certain amount of money just to take an unofficial visit to come see the school, and so it's hard. You try to make a decision and stay with it, but there's a lot of other outside factors that may lead you to opening things up, and that's what happened with Epps. Not saying that it was NIL based. I think he just wanted to look around some more, which can't fault him for that. So he decommitted. I think Texas will probably stay involved. There's not a huge group of linebackers that so far that we've seen Texas tied with in that class of 2027. So I think Epps will stay in the mix, and kids can always recommit down the line. And then the 2026 decommit was Dylan Berryman, the 4-star defensive lineman from Monroe, Louisiana. And that one, I can't, I've talked to some people, that were familiar with it. And that one sounds like it was a little bit more mutual than it was him just wanting to go somewhere else. And there's some things behind the scenes, I think, I'm not going to get into, but I don't think that one should be seen as much of, a hit to the class. Cause I don't think Texas was necessarily, I don't even know the right word. I think it was a mutual parting of ways with Dylan Berryman. So, you want him, he's kind of a force in that A gap, but they still are on some big name guys on that defensive front that can kind of fill that void, that you lose in Berryman. A guy like Richard Anderson, who's committed to LSU right now, that's supposed to visit later this month. He's 6'4", 340, I think. So, I mean, there's some big body guys out there they're still going after. Kendall Gerville, the Florida commit, who's, maybe not as much of a priority target of late, but still in the mix, and a handful of other guys. But yeah, so, I don't think and again, I think the NFL stuff with Sark is certainly something that other schools are probably going to try to negatively recruit Texas with. And I'm sure it's something kids are looking at, but I don't sense any like impending class collapse because of it. I think they've done a pretty good job of, keeping up with guys and kind of, being transparent with them about where things stand.
Bo Ogden
Yep.
has signed with Texas basketball. And Austin Gooseby.
Yeah.
Is his decision date Friday?
It is. So yeah, Ogden, who's obviously, the son of Chris Ogden, the Texas men's basketball GM. He signed Brighton early this morning at Westlake High School. We talked about him a few weeks ago when he committed. 6'5", 195, scoring threat, kid that shoots like 47% from three on the AAU circuit. Just kind of I guess the early eval was a kind of like he was an early bloomer, but a guy that you can get into the weight program, and you can kind of see what he can be, down the line in terms of his ability. But his strength is shooting the ball, obviously. But I think in time, he'll in perimeter rebounding as well. So big time get Bo Ogden. I think he's ranked. Let me look at his latest ranking on 24/7. Number 30 in the country. Number 15 small forward in the country. He picked Texas over Tennessee, which, you look at that, like, I mean, you would think, like, obviously, yeah, his dad's the GM at Texas, like he's going to go to Texas, but I think Rick Barnes made it pretty close in terms of, obviously he's known Rick Barnes his whole life, from Chris Ogden playing at Texas and, growing up around the program. So I don't think that was as much of a layup as people maybe thought it was. And then Purdue was his other finalist as well. But yeah, and then obviously, Joe Sterling's committed as well, the 4-star combo guard from California, another really solid shooter, facilitator type guard. They got committed a few weeks ago. And then Gooseby is kind of the big name we're waiting to see. Brother of Texas offensive tackle Trevor Gooseby. He's a composite 5-star in the rankings, so he's highly rated. 24/7 has him number 18 in the country, but kind of just like his brother, just kind of like a physical specimen, 6'5", 6'9" wingspan and big hands. So certainly a guy Texas likes. His 4 finalists are BYU, Texas, Baylor, and Duke. And so there's no crystal balls, which is kind of weird. I've always kind of leaned towards Texas with him, but there's been a lot of buzz about BYU. Obviously, that Mormon money, they're coming along. You can never discount Duke, but it seems like the buzz has shifted a lot with him. But it's been like Texas, BYU have been the kind of the 2 schools. But I'd probably lean towards Texas at this point, and we'll see come Friday. But if they do add Gooseby, I would think that they're probably done high school wise. Sean Miller likes to, and I think he told us, 2-3 guys from high school, and then you kind of got to turn your attention to the portal and kind of that international circuit as well in the spring. So yeah, that's where they're at. It's crazy. Like, I feel like the signing day has no buzz, basketball signing period is just kind of like, you wake up this morning, it's like, oh yeah, it's signing day for non-football sports, which, no slight to those sports, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of buzz around it this year.
No. Hank, what do you think of this basketball team so far this year? Obviously, they beat the crap out of a rump roast team last week, but they lost to Duke, and Sean Miller just trying to figure everything out right now with his personnel.
Yeah, I thought the Duke game went about as expected. I was honestly pretty surprised they led at the half. The fact that we thought you kind of start to see Duke make that run. You're like, okay, buckle up, here it comes, and then they battled back. They've got a ton of size. I really like Matas. I think he's going to be a stud. Obviously the switch to Pope back in the starting lineup against Lafayette. Maybe that, and then bringing Weaver off the bench, maybe a little bit more of that juice that we saw Texas excel with last year. But I think it's going about as what could be expected at this point. We're not going to know again what's the next big test
tonight.
I know they play tonight, but
Oh.
is it who's
Kansas City and Ryder?
Yeah, so it's like they're going to beat these teams, so you're not going to learn, I guess, a ton, but they're physical, they're big, they rebound the ball well. The pace was better this past game on Saturday. Chip did his great 3 takeaways from that. I still think it's crazy. Like, they out-rebounded Duke, like 41-37. Like, I think if you're looking for positive signs from a 15-point loss, that's a pretty positive sign. But no, I think they're still a work in progress. I think they're going to be a pretty solid team, as they figure out how this lineup works, as they get Matas and Traore back into kind of they missed most of October, as they get those guys back and start gelling more with them as a team and what they want to do, offensive and defensively. But I think they'll be a pretty solid SEC team once we get to conference play.
Hank, the other big game in the SEC, Oklahoma and Alabama. Alabama is a 5.5-point favorite at home against the Sooners. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think this is right next to Texas and Georgia in terms of very, very interesting games to watch this weekend. Bama they went on their streak where they rolled through those 4 straight ranked games in the SEC, were able to beat all those teams pretty handedly. And then, we've kind of started to see a little bit of cracks in the facade, like the last 3 weeks. Like they escaped South Carolina, which at Williams-Brice is a pretty tough place to play, but South Carolina is not a very good team this year. They almost got beat by South Carolina, and they handled LSU. I don't think the game was ever really in question, but for all the offensive success they were having, they're kind of starting to I guess regress might be too harsh of a word, but they're not scoring as much. They're not having as much efficiency on offense as they were having earlier in the season. And they're still winning, but I think, and I should say they have no run game. Like, I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but they're really struggling in terms of getting their rushing attack going. And so I think that's somewhere Oklahoma could really take advantage of them if they make them go one dimensional. You force Ty Simpson to make some plays, which probably is going to work to Bama's favor more often than not, forcing Ty Simpson to throw the ball. But I think that could be a tricky position for Alabama. Then you have the mind game with the fact that Bama was heading to the playoff last year. They tripped up in Norman, got beat by a really crappy Oklahoma team. And so I don't know, is that still in their mind? Does that help them in terms of revenge factor, or is that going to be like, oh man, maybe these guys can beat us? So we'll see. Bama's defense is pretty solid. I think Material's going to have his work cut out for him. But I mean, Oklahoma went on the road, beat a pretty good Tennessee team. Since losing to Texas, they've you could have totally seen the wheels fall off, especially with the Venables era and everything after losing to Texas like that. But they've responded pretty well the last few weeks, and so I'll be curious to see what happens this weekend.
It almost makes you appreciate Ty Simpson even more when you look at Alabama's rushing attack. I mean, they're only averaging 3.5 a carry. They're only averaging 111 yards per game on the ground.
Yeah,
and here they are. Everyone thinks they're going to play for the SEC title, and it's because Ty Simpson's got crazy numbers.
Yeah. I know Ryan Williams hasn't made much noise this year, but I mean the Jeremy Bernard is probably their best receiver right now. And then they use their tight ends pretty well. The offensive line keeps them upright. So yeah, I'll be curious to see. I don't think there's not many scenarios where I don't think they have to win out, but Bama's probably pretty safe in terms of SEC championship contention right now, unless they just completely screw up and then lose to Auburn or something. But I think the game is at Auburn, which crazier things happen. But so we'll see. I just think it's the wrong time of the year to start. You look at Texas in terms of now they're starting to figure some things out on offense, look pretty dangerous. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Whereas Bama, it's like, okay, we saw them play so well in October and earlier in the season against Georgia. Now they're kind of, they're struggling to. There was times in the LSU game I was watching it like LSU was driving to tie the game, and there were some uncharacteristic plays from Trey'Dez Green, he had a big drop in the fourth quarter that Van Buren put the ball right on him. Could have been a pretty long catch and run. Maybe could have changed that complexion of the whole game. So, I mean, it's not like LSU got completely outmanned, which, LSU shouldn't get outmanned. Like, they're LSU, but, they that for a 20-9 win, it wasn't as pretty as, maybe you'd hope.
Yeah.
This turning into a Texas or Alabama football show.
We'll get back to Texas real quick with this question here, Hank. How surprised are you that none of these highly touted freshman wide receivers aren't getting any playing time? Like, I get it. Parker Livingston, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore. Now you got Emmett Mosley the fifth. We saw Dalen McCutcheon get a little sprinkle of some reps, but overall, not really. And a lot of Longhorn fans are wondering, okay, I see the Collier Moore shining out there in Oregon. I see my man down there in Miami shining. He's a freshman, but Michael Terry, Jamie French, Khalid Lockett, none of those guys can touch the field. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised. I think it goes back to Sark's philosophy a little bit, to where, like, he's not going to rotate a ton of receivers. I think, he has his, like, 4 guys he loves, then maybe that fifth with McCutcheon kind of sprinkled in there a little bit in need be situations. We saw Khalid Lockett come in those Hail Mary situations, at the end of the half in the Vanderbilt game. So a little bit there, but yeah, I mean, and like, this is like a class that, like, Texas invested a lot of money into this receivers class. Like, this is like Jamie French is like that's a guy that, had a lot of NIL pull, like, carry with him. Obviously Khalid Lockett too, Michael Terry, who's now, kind of shuffling between receiver, running back, maybe more so running back right now, came in as an athlete, but, he can do a few different things. And then McCutcheon's the only, out of all that group, McCutcheon's the only, like, true freshman we're seeing, on a relatively consistent basis. So I am surprised. I think you kind of just look at Sark's philosophy in that, and the fact that, like, the starting receivers aren't really doing anything bad necessarily to need to be pulled from the field, to where, we're seeing Wingo really blossom this year. Livingston's been great. Mosley has been, I think, everything and then some of what they expected, getting him out of the portal. And then DeAndre Moore's obviously always kind of been, he does what he does. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess there's just not been a huge need, but, at some point, other schools are going to come in and say, you're not, you would be starting for us at this program. And, we'll see if the portal impacts it. But at the same time, if you're NIL, you're paying these guys a lot and they're not wowing you enough or doing enough to where they have to play because they're just that good. Do you want to use your NIL resources somewhere else if you're already getting it out of your other receiver? So I would imagine Texas is probably going to have some portal hits at the wide receiver position this offseason, just in the fact that they can return their entire starting receiver core right now, plus, Livingston or Mosley, however you want to name it. And then, McCutcheon, like all those guys have years left of eligibility, one or more years of eligibility left. Like, DeAndre Moore could go to the NFL. I don't think he has the season that probably he would want to be able to boost his stock enough, but I mean, he's the only draft eligible guy. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll be curious to see. That'll be an interesting position in the portal to see who leaves and who kind of sticks it out to maybe try to compete to get in that rotation next year.
Yeah, Dallas Wilson I know they were recruiting him and decided
Dallas Wilson, who has his like just monster game versus Texas and disappears the rest of the season. Like, it was like the Dallas Wilson show and then he was gone.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Did you guys see that Billy Napier too was at Georgia's practice this week? So
for what?
If he, I don't know if he's looking for a job.
Nobody's going to hire him as an analyst.
Yeah, the Texas Week analyst.
Texas Week analyst.
Wow, what a traitor, Billy.
Sark needs to be on the phone with Lane. Lane scored a touchdown on his first 5 drives against Georgia.
Yeah, and we got Arch talking to Ty.
Arch is talking to Ty. Sark's got to be talking to Lane. Kirby's talking to Billy.
That would, like, if Billy Napier is like your X factor for beating Texas, like, was Texas even going to win the game? Like, I mean, come on,
right?
Like, is that like your secret formula.
Right. Yeah, Billy, the offensive guru.
Yeah.
Hank, great stuff, man. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun weekend.
Yeah, should be good.
Let's do it again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
there he is. Hank South,
Yeah.
managing editor, MVP of horns247.com.
Yo,
Yeah.
Billy Napier ain't shit for that. I'm sorry. Excuse my French, mama. Bro, you were just coaching at Florida. You go to the nemesis, arch rival Georgia to help him out? What? Oh, Billy should have been fired a long time ago. They waited too long. Come on, man. Like, the wound ain't even healed yet. If I'm a Florida fan, I'm losing my mind because it's Georgia. Like, it's not like those guys like each other. It'd be different if
Everyone likes Billy. Hell, Gary Patterson came to Texas after beating that ass for.
That's not the same, though. Like, Texas fans don't care about TCU like that. Not the same way that Georgia and Florida fans feel about each other. Not even close.
Well, TCU fans did.
Yeah.
They were like, "What's he doing?"
Yeah, but that's like little brother syndrome. That's like, we'll never be Texas. How could he do that? We're little brother, little cousin. Like, I get.
Yeah, but he was beating Texas.
Yeah,
He beat him 9 out of 12 years at the end.
But like, other than that, you getting rolled by Georgia by 70.
Yeah, that was Sonny Dykes, though.
That was Sonny, wasn't it? Yeah,
That was Sonny.
yeah.
Sonny.
I love
I
Gary.
talked to someone today who's like, I think Sonny's on the hot seat. I'm like, he's on the hot seat. He played for the national championship 3 years ago. Like,
Beat BYU, Sonny. Beat BYU.
what do these people want? Like, you're gonna have some ups and downs. You can't just pull the plug at the first sign of trouble. Gadzooks. What you shaking your head for? What you mean?
Get rid of him. You gotta get rid of him.
Oh my God.
If you feel something fishy, if something don't feel right, trust your gut. Some of us have more gut than others. Trust it.
What's going on at LSU? LSU, like Brian Kelly's like, okay, where's my settlement? And they're like digging around trying to find stuff to fire him for cause. I'm like, what do you? No, you pay the man. You brought up the terrible contract. Now you can't go trying to trash the guy. I mean, LSU, come on, man. You got to be careful. You need to hire a coach. You need someone who wants to come there.
No, if Ed O can do it, a lot of people can. That's probably how they feeling.
I love it. I love that Ed Orgeron won a national championship, and
Me too.
he needs to get back in the game. There's some coaches Gary Patterson needs to get back in the game.
I thought Gary wanted that Hall of Fame nod.
I think he's right there. I think he's on the ballot. So
now he can get back in now that he's on the ballot. Is that how it works? You have to like wait however many years and then put you on the ballot. You can get back.
I guess we'll find out how much he really wants to get back in. You know what I mean? He would have gone to Nebraska if they didn't hire Matt Rule.
Well, that job might be open soon. So
yeah,
if I'm Gary, I'd answer the phone.
This is a big week for Baylor. Old Dave Aranda. I mean, would you fire Dave Aranda?
Nobody.
Huh?
Utah hasn't beaten nobody. But their losses came from the teams that are ahead of them in BYU and Texas Tech. So I hate
Utah hasn't beaten anybody, but they're 13th in the playoff rankings.
That's what I'm saying. I can't stand stuff like that. Like, why? Like, it's just because we respect Witt and his teams play hard all the time. I don't care about that.
We haven't talked about the college football playoff rankings that came out last night. The one thing that is interesting to me is, did Miami beat Notre Dame?
Yep.
They did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Miami's 15th. Notre Dame's 9th. And I get it. Miami lost to Louisville and SMU.
Yeah, nobody respecting your Mustangs. Nobody respecting.
No one's respecting the Mustangs. That's what that says.
Yeah, Louisville too. Who Louisville lose to after they beat Miami?
Louisville lost to NC. Is that right? NC
I think
State.
that was Tech.
Oh, let's see. Louisville lost to Virginia, and then to Cal.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Nah, Miami's exactly where they need to be. I ain't trying to hear that. To Cal? Come on, man.
No. I thought you asked me Louisville. Who Louisville lost to?
Yeah, who Louisville lose to?
Louisville lost to Virginia and Cal. Miami lost to Louisville and SMU.
Exactly. The fact that Louisville's out here losing to Cal but beating Miami, Miami's exactly where they need to be. ACC is trash, bro.
But they beat Notre Dame.
That don't still, you could tell the committee's looking at losses. Like they're looking at some of these. That loss is horrible. And I know Texas lost to Florida. If I'm Miami, I'm saying the same thing. We beat Florida. Texas lost to Florida. What the hell? But that Louisville loss is atrocious. Like that's so bad. That's so bad. Again, Florida got their ass whooped last week against Kentucky. So they're not doing Texas any favors. But
yeah, but Texas is still 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, they respect OU. They respect Vanderbilt, clearly.
I mean, Texas is two wins that are keeping them up are Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Oklahoma's 11, Vanderbilt's 14.
They respect them that.
Miami beat Notre Dame, and they're down there.
They don't respect Notre Dame either. They know, man. They know. In a way, it's all brand. It's all.
You got Notre Dame at 9. That puts them in the tournament. I'm cheering for Pitt so hard this week. I mean,
I am too, but I also think that they know they don't want Notre Dame there. This is just for now.
For now?
Yeah, it's just for now.
They don't play anyone else.
Okay.
I mean, they are a 12.5-point favorite at Pitt.
So let's say Texas wins out. Let's say OU wins out. I'm bumping Notre Dame out of there.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And I think that's where they're banking on. Like they're all right, Notre Dame, just because we need somebody here, we're gonna let y'all live for a little bit because of the brand. Lou Holtz. The OGs that came before. It's the brand. I can't knock the brand. From someone who's benefited off of a brand like we are right now, I can't knock others for getting in on the brand. And I know that's what they do with Notre Dame. I know that's what they do with Texas a little bit. But I know Texas' resume is a lot better than Notre Dame's. But hey, it's all subjective. I don't know what these folks at the committee, what everybody's thinking. But I think that Notre Dame, they better be careful.
Well, this is it. If they don't lose to Pitt, they're not going to lose to freaking Stanford or Syracuse. So if they don't lose to Pitt, they're in. That's a problem.
I mean, it sucks, but I think we're on our way to getting one Big 12 team in. I'm good with that. There was a point of time where it seemed like two. This Utah thing, I think Utah could get got. I also think that BYU could get got twice, 2 times. Because BYU lose to Tech again. Get rolled by Tech again. I'm already come to the conclusion that Tech's probably in. I'm fine with that. They've blown the bag on their roster, so they deserve it with what Cody Campbell has done. I know Texas fans, y'all ain't trying to hear that. I don't care. Congrats to Tech and Joey McGuire doing their thing. But if that means Tech gets in and that could be the only Big 12 team representing, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. Because
I mean, Texas Tech deserves to be in. They're playing good football, both sides of the ball. Their defense, I mean, they're putting it on people.
Baron Morton does some dumb stuff sometimes, though. Like, he'll lower his shoulder. Like, bro, you just lost Will Hammond for the season. You've been in and out of the lineup at times. He'll have plays where it's a clear slide situation. Here goes Brandon Morton just lowering his shoulder. Like,
he's got that plate that he's got kind of protecting his tibia, because that's where it's been. He's, he kind of limps off the field from time to time. It's like,
oh yeah. It's a lot of games to be played.
Don't be a hero.
Nah, go be a hero. Go be a hero. You're so close. You're so close. You can almost taste that Big 12 title. So close. You can almost taste that college football playoff, bid. Yeah, anything. Got to put it all on the line. You owe your teammate that, Morton. You owe your teammates that, buddy, and your coaching staff. Put it all on the line, baby.
If the college football playoff started today, Texas would be playing at Ole Miss. South Florida would be at Georgia. Miami would be at Texas Tech, because they're saying Miami's going to win the ACC, be the only team in. Texas at Ole Miss, Notre Dame at Oregon, and Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Bama would have first-round byes. So Miami at Texas Tech.
Yeah, college football, they would eat that up if Texas had to go to Oxford, obviously, with the Mannings and that family and Ole Miss and just that history. That game would definitely do numbers, because Arch, he went to a game every year his whole childhood, for his grandpa. So, yeah, that'd be a movie-like game right there. See, like, what, Miami at 11? Like, come on, man.
Someone's got to win the ACC. I'm hoping it'll be SMU.
God,
it's not even in the rankings.
That is so bad.
That ACC is.
But again, I like it. Like, I'll take this. If we had to play it today, I would take this, because as you see, one team from the Big 12, one team from the ACC. Bet.
Yeah, and then you'd play Indiana in a neutral site game.
Yeah.
Take that.
We'll take that. Absolutely.
Take that. Georgia and Alabama knocking each other out. Ohio State. Man, that's an easy-ass bracket for Ohio State.
I wouldn't say easy, but
easy.
Easy is a little disrespectful. Oregon's one of the best run teams in the nation. Those dudes, they run the football. I respect the good run game. They run the football, man. They had 300 the other day.
300.
They barely on the ground. That's grimy.
They barely got out of Iowa.
That's okay. Iowa's a brutal place.
Right.
They make you wave at the sickly kids, which is sad. It's depressing. Yeah, I can't, it's beautiful for Iowa. It's a beautiful scene. But if I'm an opponent, this is tough. Like, we're trying to play football here. This is very, it's deep. A lot of folks, it's hard to handle that. And they're boring and they play hard. They had them boys in a dogfight. And Dante Moore, he was big. But easy? But that's what happens when you earn number one. Like, it should look like that a little bit.
What is this? Texas man indicted for alleged threats made to Louisville football coach Jeff Brown.
Yeah. He had a head on Moss Miller and everything. Miller Moss, whatever my man's name is. Yeah, he was wilding.
Good heavens. Brian Mandel, 38, of Corpus Christi, faces 6 counts of second-degree terroristic threatening and 1 count of attempted extortion. He's got an arrest warrant. His bond will be $100,000.
Wait, homie's still out? He's still moving?
I don't know. Let's see. The indictment alleges Mandel made threats between November 8th and 9th following Louisville's 29-26 overtime loss at home to California.
But see, you see how my man crashed out? That's why Miami is where they are. That's why. You see how my man lost his mind because Louisville couldn't get it done against Cal? You got folks just losing it, putting everything on the line for college football. The committee went in there and said, yeah, look how this dude acted towards Cal beating Louisville. We can't move Miami up. We can't do it. We got to wait. They got to keep playing because that loss looks so bad right now.
Oh, man. That's terrible. All right, let's bring in our man, the National College Football Guru. We call him Hole-in-One Hummer, the one and only Chris Hummer from CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. Hummer, how you doing?
What up? Doing good. How you doing?
Hey, Hummer, I see that they're putting like Chick-fil-A vending machines in places, knowing that you have a history working at Chick-fil-A. But how the hell is the vending machines closed on Sundays too? Like, what are we doing? I get the stores, the vending machine closed on Sundays. Come on, man. We're doing too much now.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to cook it, right? I guess the Lord's chicken's not available for anybody to cook on Sunday. That's wild, though. Like, is it like a heated vending machine?
Yeah, they have one at Georgia Tech and then another one somewhere in the state of Georgia. So
I remember like on Texas's campus, there's 2 like places to buy food. One is the Student Activity Center next to Gregory, and the other one, I don't remember the name of the building. But I remember when they had like, it's not like actual employees anymore. It's just like a big like heated window. But that's next level, man. Vending machines. Talk about, that's not turnkey like the other vending machines, though. You got to like update that stuff every day.
Yeah.
Hummer, speaking of Georgia, Texas heading to Georgia between the hedges, 6:30, ABC. How do you see this one going?
I think it's one of the most consequential games of the year. I lean Georgia. I think it's very tough to win in Athens. I think Alabama is the only team since 2020 to win in Athens. And they only did it once. Texas hasn't had a lot of success against Georgia over the last 12 months either. But with the way Texas is playing, like, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think it's a good matchup for Texas in some ways because the offensive line for Texas won't be as big of an issue against Georgia because Georgia just doesn't generate pressure. Like, they just don't. That is a defense that I think ranks almost last nationally in sacks. So that's a plus for Texas, but Arch Manning's going to have to play consistent football. I think we've seen him play 2 good games in a row for the first time in his career, basically, at least in 2025. But it'll be a really interesting matchup for Texas's defense, especially because Georgia creates some mismatches.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get going against Georgia, you need to do it early. Like, Joey Aguilar completed his first 14 passes against Georgia. They took a 21-7 lead after the first quarter. Alabama converted 7 of 9 third downs in the first quarter against Georgia. I mean, but then they get it fixed. I mean, they've trailed after the first quarter in 6 of their 7 SEC games, but they've only lost to Bama.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I think the safest bet this year has basically been take the first quarter for the opponent against Georgia, basically, because you're absolutely right, Chip. They just fall behind. It happened against Mississippi State over the weekend.
Yeah.
So if Texas can get up early, put a little pressure on Georgia, it could change the way the game has gone. Because like we all remember the last 2 times Texas has played Georgia. Georgia absolutely hit Texas in the mouth in Austin last year. Quinn Ewers was benched briefly because of it. And in the SEC championship game, that was just like a dogfight the entire time that Georgia pulled away at the end. So yeah, it'd be huge if you can go to Athens and quiet the crowd a little bit and generate some momentum, because you're going to be using a lot of silent counts if you're Arch Manning. Like, there's going to be a lot of chaos, and if you can take the crowd out of that game a little bit by doing what other teams have done to Georgia, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, and Gunnar Stockton completing 80% of his passes in the fourth quarter of SEC play.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
That man's been clutch, man. Like, what was I'm trying to remember there was I don't remember what game it was specifically, but he had a
4th and 6 touchdown pass against Tennessee.
Yeah, to London Humphreys in the right corner of the end zone. Like, that was
4th and 6.
That's disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, they were down 8.
I've seen all year.
Yeah, down 8, got the 2-point conversion too. They just never die. And talk a little bit more about Gunnar Stockton, Hummer, because obviously Kirby Smart made it know that, hey, Carson Beck, you could go home and walk, bro, especially with the money that you're asking for. This guy that we got next, we think he's the real deal, and seems like it's been that way thus far this season.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, Gunnar Stockton is not the most talented quarterback in the country by any means. I think Texas fans will watch him on Saturday. You'll see kind of a weird throwing motion, kind of an elongated motion. Not the fastest dude, but is a really good runner. Not the most talented arm, but he has been somebody that Georgia's rallied behind, and he has made the plays when it's mattered most. Chip noted the 80% completion rate in the fourth quarter. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's only thrown 2 interceptions this year. I think he's completing 70% of his passes on the season. A lot of what they do is getting the ball out quickly and getting it to their playmakers in space, like Zachariah Branch. You're going to probably see 5 screens thrown to Zachariah Branch on Saturday. Kind of the way Texas uses Ryan Wingo, to be honest. A lot of goes, a lot of hitches, a lot of like screens to him. But I know Mike Bobo doesn't get a lot of credit. He gets a lot of hate around Athens, to be frank, but I think he's done a really nice job with that offense and highlighting Gunnar Stockton's strengths. And Gunnar Stockton's shown he's just not going to turn the ball over much. And it's going to be tough on Texas.
What do you think? You got Oklahoma and Alabama. Ty Simpson, who's totally masked the fact that Alabama has one of the worst running games in college football. How do you see this one going?
I picked out Alabama to win, but I think there's a really good opportunity for Oklahoma to pull a pretty big upset and change the way the playoff rankings look moving forward. I think when you're talking about a scenario for the SEC to get 5 or 6 teams into the playoff, Oklahoma has to win on Saturday. And I think it can. Like, as you mentioned, Chip, Alabama's run game does really struggle, and Oklahoma on paper is the best run defense in the country. So it's going to be a lot on Ty Simpson, kind of in the way we see a lot being put on John Mateer, because Oklahoma also struggles to run the ball, and they count on John Mateer to do so much. And I think this is a scenario where Brent Venables is going to get super creative with his blitz packages. Ty Simpson is going to be forced to get the ball out quickly. They're going to take away the run. And I think this is a game Oklahoma is capable of winning. I'm not going to pick them to win it. I think Oklahoma is a very flawed football team. I mean, but in fairness, like, a lot of these teams are flawed at this time of the year. But even if you go back to last week against Tennessee, Oklahoma got outgained by 100 yards. Like, that's not really an Oklahoma offense I trust. So I'm picking Alabama straight up, but I'll take the points with Oklahoma. I believe it's a 7-point spread. I think that's a favorable scenario as a better in terms of the spread there for Oklahoma.
Yeah. Hummer, what stood out this week for the CFP rankings that came out last night to you?
Well, a couple things. One, South Florida was ranked, so I think that is a big thing for the American. I didn't think there was nothing in the rankings that was particularly egregious to me in terms of like how it got laid out. I think it's interesting that A&M is still behind Indiana, to be honest. I think I would think about flipping those two teams. I think we see the way the committee thinks about Texas Tech to leapfrog Oregon and Georgia, I believe. No, it's not Oregon and Georgia. Oregon and Ole Miss in the rankings. I think that shows that there's a real belief from the committee that Texas Tech is one of the legit contenders in the country. And I think that is deserved based on the way it played. The Texas and Oklahoma over BYU thing is interesting to me. I agree with it. I think BYU is a pretty flawed 8-1 football team, but it does show that it might be tough for the Big 12 to get a second team in the playoff outside of Texas Tech. I actually really think the Big 12's best chance might be, I mean, BYU winning out would be ideal for the Big 12, beat Texas Tech, probably get two teams in. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be curious what happens if Utah runs the table and Utah beats Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Do both Utah and Texas Tech get in? But it's looking like we're only going to get one ACC team, and there's certainly no guarantee for two Big 12 teams right now.
Yeah, they don't have any respect for Miami. Like, Miami is 15th. They've lost to Louisville and SMU, but they beat Notre Dame. And they're sitting back there at 15. I'm not sure that I disagree, but man, they don't think much about the ACC.
Yeah, I mean,
and they fell apart this weekend. Louisville lost, Virginia lost.
Yeah, the ACC has been really bad. And Miami's probably not going to make the ACC championship game. It would take some real chaos for them to get there. So I have a hard time seeing Miami ending up in the playoff. And like on paper, Miami has two of the best wins of the year over Notre Dame and South Florida, the way they beat South Florida. But don't lose to SMU. Don't blow a game that you should have won there, and don't lose to Louisville. They also came very well. I will say the Florida State game wasn't as close as the score would look like, but Miami plays with its food way too often, and they've got some tough games down the stretch with NC State and Pitt, and I wouldn't be surprised if Miami got clipped in one of those.
Yeah. You know, Hummer, going back to the Texas-Georgia game, there was always, and I think still a narrative on just certain coordinators when they're under a big-time head coach. You kind of saw it with Eric Bieniemy when he was under Andy Reid, and everybody always saying, oh, that's Andy Reid's offense. Eric Bieniemy doesn't have much to do with that. I look at Glenn Schumann, who's still very young in his career. He's a 90s baby. But when people talk about this defense for Georgia over the years, it's always been, this is Kirby Smart, and then they kind of mention Glenn Schumann. Talk about Glenn Schumann a little bit and just kind of his aspirations, because I'm sure he has head coaching aspirations one day. And why isn't he in talks with all this coaching carousel stuff and all these open jobs that might be available when the season ends?
Yeah, well, if you talk to people who've worked with Glenn Schumann or people who faced him, they have immense respect for what Glenn Schumann does. And you're right, like the Kirby Smart title can kind of overshadow the defense. And I think Glenn Schumann's problem really is that Dan Lanning was in a similar position, right? Dan Lanning goes to Oregon. Dan Lanning had one of the most talented defenses in history his 2 years at Georgia. I'm not saying like Dan Lanning's play calling didn't have a lot to do with it or Kirby Smart's, but I believe the 2021 Georgia national championship team had 12 or 13 draft picks on defense, like come out of that team. Like it was ridiculously loaded, and Georgia's still really, really good, but the pack, they have come back to the pack a little bit in terms of depth and talent. And I think that hurts the perception of Glenn Schumann a little bit. But this is still a guy that's in the mix for some of these jobs. I mean, he was very much in the mix for North Carolina last year until the boosters at North Carolina went a little rogue and hired Bill Belichick. And Like I've heard Glenn Schumann's name attached to jobs like Florida a little bit. I don't think he's like at the top of the list or a top candidate like a Lane Kiffin, for example. But like I think Glenn Schumann is a guy that's gonna get consideration for some of these jobs, and I think eventually will get one of these jobs. People really respect the job he does. He's just maybe not as dynamic of a personality as like a Dan Lanning is.
Yeah.
Is Sonny Dykes in trouble at TCU?
No, I don't think Sonny Dykes is necessarily in trouble at TCU this year.
Yeah, I'm like, someone was saying, I think he's on the hot seat. I'm like, he played for the national championship 3 years ago. Like, I mean, some of these schools need to take a breath.
I think there's going to be some pressure on Sonny Dykes. And I think there was some pressure on Sonny Dykes last year around this time, because I think they were 5-4. They ended up winning out and winning 9 games. But this is, that was a bad loss for TCU over the weekend. And TCU's had 2 really bad losses this year when you throw in the Arizona State game. Like TCU is a team that should be legitimately in the mix for a Big 12 championship right now. They have that talented of a roster. And yeah, I mean, like, I think there will be some pressure on Sonny Dykes going into next year based on the way this season has unfolded, but it's not like he's at risk of being fired.
Yeah. What did Oregon and Indiana show you this past Saturday, Hummer? Because both teams clearly needed heroics towards the end of the game to win in games that they were definitely favored in. Indiana, I get it. Penn State, they still have talent, even though they don't have James Franklin anymore. We knew that Iowa game was dangerous for Oregon, but nobody thought that it would come down to the wire like it did in both games. Your thoughts on those?
Yeah, so I came away with Indiana, first of all, being very impressed with Fernando Mendoza. I don't know if I would pick him first as a quarterback in this draft. I think it's a very unappealing quarterback cycle for guys, especially if like a Dante Moore decides to stay in school. But Fernando Mendoza twice now has thrown really bad fourth quarter interceptions and has responded immediately with scoring drives. And on that last drive against Penn State, Fernando Mendoza was hitting the ground every single time he dropped back. It felt like he was that last pass that he had, that touchdown, he was basically just running backwards from the kind of pass rush, and he lobbed the ball up, and it was perfect. And you just can't help but be impressed by that toughness, and also Indiana's ability to respond in those moments too. I think Indiana's going to lose to Ohio State in a couple weeks, but that shouldn't take away from what they have done this season and who they are. I think this is a team that's going to give people a lot of trouble in the playoffs. They're super well coached, and they have a quarterback that keeps them in games. Oregon, you're impressed by their ability to win in a not great environment. Like, this is a team that relies on speed. The field looked like it was a mess in Iowa. That is a tough place to play. That is a tough win for them to pull out. But I continue to think with Oregon, like, you would like them to be a little more dominant in the trenches, and we just haven't seen that from them this year. I think we've seen Iowa and Indiana now win in the trenches, and it cost them the Indiana game, but they were able to pull out this Iowa game at the last second.
You give Iowa any chance this week against USC?
Yeah, I think it'll be difficult on the road in Los Angeles, but it just depends on if Iowa can pull USC into its style of play, right? Iowa's really good up front defensively. I think they have the advantage against USC's offensive line. Iowa's an excellent secondary as well. So it'll be interesting to see like the tempo that Lincoln Riley like plays with offensively and the amount they'll throw. Like, that is a team that throws the ball a ton. Can they wear Iowa's defense out? I think it's really going to come down to, can Iowa's offense stay on the field and run the ball against a USC rush defense that's been questionable this year. I picked Iowa to cover, but I will say, like, Iowa has to play like really well for that not to get out of hand, because that's the type of game where USC can score quickly and Iowa doesn't really have the ability to respond.
What about Notre Dame and Pitt? How do you see that one playing out?
Well, Pat Narduzzi doesn't seem to care. So did y'all see that quote?
Well, what'd he say?
He was asked, like, how much does this game matter against Notre Dame? And he was like, basically said, like, oh, I don't care. We could lose by 100. And as long as we win the 2 after that and make it to the ACC championship game, that's really all that matters. I don't think he actually feels that way, but it was just like a weird quote, right?
Yeah.
But I do think Pitt matches up pretty well. Like, this is a Pitt offense that, if you look at it like on a per game basis in terms of yards, they are number one in the country in terms of passing yards. Like, this is a team that's going to put up numbers. Offensively, Notre Dame's secondaries have been a little questionable at times this season, although it's gotten better. And Pittsburgh quietly is like one of the best run defenses in the country too. So that's a unit that should be able to slow down what Notre Dame does best. So I picked Pitt to cover, but I'd love a little more inspired confidence from the head coach going to that one with that pick.
Yeah. Hummer, where you at in the Heisman vote? I mean, Fernando Mendoza, he definitely helped out his case with that, dramatic drive at the end of the Penn State game. But other than that, how you feeling right now about the Heisman?
Pretty uninspiring year for the Heisman, right? I have Fernando Mendoza as the front runner right now, but if Julian Sand keeps up this level of play, I have a hard time not giving it to him. I mean, he's completing 81% of his passes. It's just an absurd rate. And I think the record is 77.5%. And that was set by Bo Nix a couple of years ago. He's just playing great football. And frankly, like, if Jeremiah Smith has another couple 100 yards games down the stretch, I might be of the opinion you just give it to the best player in college football. And that is Jeremiah Smith. Like, I don't think there's much question about that. So it's an interesting race. Like, if Vanderbilt runs the table and finishes unbeaten, I think Diego Pavia should certainly have an argument. I know Texas fans would love that based on the way they responded to him in the end zone a couple weeks ago. I really do think David Bailey or Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech should probably be in discussion a little bit too. I think David Bailey's probably the higher ceiling player, but Jacob Rodriguez is impactful down and down as anybody in the country in terms of his ability to create turnovers. So yeah, I think there's some people in the mix. It's just maybe not the most inspiring field.
Well, Saturday will be a big night for Ty Simpson, for Gunnar Stockton, for Arch Manning. What? Arch Manning? What? Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a chance for Arch to be on the biggest stage and sort of quiet the critics, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the funny thing about Arch is, like, I know people have been on him all year, but if you look at stuff like PFF's metrics, he's now a top 25 quarterback in the country for the season. So, but this will be the biggest stage he's been on all year outside of Ohio State. It's a primetime game. If Arch Manning plays well, absolutely, I think a lot of the critics will shut up. He'll be leading things like Get Up in a good way, which will be a welcome change of pace, I'm sure, after the way the season started for him.
Yeah. Get Up, of course, the ESPN morning show that went ballistic after the Ohio State game.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Like, just the Arch Manning discussion. I know. I mean, y'all know it. Y'all know it, obviously. The Arch Manning discussions this year have just been insane. Like, absolutely insane. But I guess you can't really ever be particularly measured when it's somebody with the last name of Manning. But it's like people forget that 11 people play football and there's a lot of other things going on besides just the quarterback.
Facts. But Hummer, you mentioned South Florida being in the top 25 is a big deal. Explain that a little bit for us.
Well, I mean, the top-ranked conference, like the sixth conference, gets into the playoff. And that would imply somebody has to be ranked. So South Florida getting in there, I think, is a big deal for the American. I would assume even if nobody's actually ranked, they would get in. I need to clarify that. But I think it's helpful for the group of six to have a representative in the playoff rankings because it means the committee respects the product. And South Florida, Tulane, North Texas, I think, is the group that the American's going to come down to. And if you're a team like South Florida and you're competing with maybe like a James Madison that could run the table and go 12-1 in the regular season, you're probably going to have more losses than them. So the committee ranking you at this point is a very positive sign for them because it means they might stay ahead of James Madison, even if something crazy happens down the stretch.
Yeah, it's an interesting year all the way around. How many SEC teams you think get in, Hummer? A&M, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, Vanderbilt, OU. I mean, I'm not saying they're all going to get in, but
I would say I'd put the over-under at 4.5. I don't think we're going to get to 6, but I think 5 is very likely. I'll be very curious what happens if we have a 3-loss Texas that beats Georgia. Let's say Texas goes on the road and beats Georgia this week, and then they lose to A&M the final week of the season. I'm sure Texas fans would love to flip those, right? But either way, like, does a 3-loss Texas get in over a 2-loss Utah or a 2-loss Miami or a 2-loss Notre Dame, which I think is the scenario that might actually occur? I don't know the answer to that, but I think 5 is a pretty safe number to assume is going to happen. Because I think this is a year the SEC would deserve 5 if they can get it.
Do you think it matters if Texas was to lose to either Georgia or A&M, do you think it matters which game?
I don't really. I think you would be losing to a top 5 team either way. I think it's probably easier for the committee to understand a loss on the road, but I mean, if you lose to A&M, you're probably losing to the number 2 or number 3 team in the country at the time. So that's not huge. I think it's going to come down to what a loss looks like more than like who the loss is to.
Yeah. So you got one more?
Yeah. What does Marcel Reed need to do to put himself over the top for the Heisman vote?
Win and look really good against Texas. And then I guess potentially also look really good in the SEC championship game. I think Marcel Reed has been really good this year, but a lot of his production has come from his receivers creating yardage on their own. I think Marcel Reed, like, we oversell this as just as a public, but I think Chip as a voter could probably tell you, like, those moments really matter. Like, narrative really matters. And let's say Marcel Reed plays Texas and throws for 250, runs for 125, and A&M wins that game. And then A&M beats Alabama in the SEC championship game, and Marcel Reed throws for 220 and runs for 150 again. Like, those are the type of moments that can launch you into Heisman discussions that maybe you wouldn't have been in 3 weeks prior. And he would be doing something at A&M that nobody else has done in history, not even Johnny Manziel, really. So that gives you an opportunity. But I think if you watch Marcel Reed, he's not quite there with the other kind of top quarterbacks in the country right now. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have the opportunity to make that kind of statement.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot to be determined here in the last 3 games of this season. It's going to be fun. Hummer, you're the best. We appreciate it. We look forward to it every week. Let's do it again next Wednesday.
Absolutely, guys. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Hummer.
All right. There he is. Chris Hummer, hole-in-one Hummer. National college football guru, transfer portal guru, CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. All right, let's get a couple mentions in here, guys. You know that I am all about the supplements. It would be embarrassing if you looked in one of my cupboards and saw all the supplements I've tried, and now I have found my love. Humann, the Super Beats Heart Chews. Look, they promote healthy blood pressure 2 times more than just diet and exercise alone. So I'm telling you, you're going to feel so much better when you're taking this Super Beats Heart Chews from Humann. Humann, I love Humann because their story, their science is, based on research that was done at the University of Texas Health Science Center. And their beets-based products, which taste great, by the way, are the number 1 recommended source of heart healthy supplements by cardiologists. So I love more than just the Super Beats. I'm kind of on the Humann regimen. I take the turmeric chews, which help with, inflammation. So you're going to feel better all over the place, like joints where you have inflammation issues, especially when you are getting around my age, like, over 50, you know what I'm saying? And the glinocalyx, which is the kind of super multivitamin, but it's really more than that, from Humann. And I would just say this: you go to Humann with 2 N's, humann.com/TSU, use the promo code TSU. You're going to get 20% off your first order. So load up with the Super Beats Heart Chews and the turmeric chews, the glinocalyx, and start there. And there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So no risk to you whatsoever, but load up so that you get the whole program and see what I'm feeling, because the brain fog is gone. That's huge. And your body feels better. So just go to Humann with 2 N's.com/TSU. Use promo code TSU. And for my guys who are snoring, hey, make sure you take advantage of this incredible partnership that we have right now between Texas Sports Unfiltered and the Sleep Cycle Center in Austin. This is one of the foremost treatment centers for sleep apnea. And it's because of Dr. Chad Denman, who has dedicated his life to treating sleep apnea, in part because it killed his own father at the age of 60. He wants to make sure that nothing like that happens to anyone out there listening to the sound of my voice. And if you snore, you probably know it. And if you're waking up in the night and you're waking up in the night, and it's not because you got to go to the bathroom, then it's probably because you're suffering from a lack of oxygen while you're sleeping. Don't mess around with this. Sleep apnea killed Reggie White, the football player, Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. So listen, take advantage of this incredible partnership, because all you have to do is go to sleepcyclecenters.com and tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you. They're going to take $100 off your sleep study. That sleep study is going to detect your level of sleep apnea. And Dr. Chad has the best treatment options, from oral appliances like I have, a mouth guard that holds my lower jaw open while I sleep. So I get that oxygen and that deep sleep, to surgery. But get the information that you need. Just go to sleepcyclecenters.com and tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you. And hey, look, we got games this weekend. We got it's every weekend is a great reason to go out and eat some great food, like at Cover 3. I mean, Cover 3, the food is always going to bring you back, and try the whole menu. I mean, I had the blackened shrimp and chicken pasta the other day. It's fantastic. The Chop House burger, which I love. I mean, Texas Monthly calls it one of the best burgers in the state of Texas. The Sean Adams prime rib sandwich, I love it with the au jus and the horseradish. But the Parmesan fries, I mean, happy hour every day from 3:30 to 6:30, 3:30 to close, happy hour on Mondays. And the $7 social hour menu, I mean, $7, you're getting the firecracker shrimp, the bacon deviled eggs, the big chicken slider. I mean, I'm starving just talking about it. Get to Cover 3, and don't forget about brunch on the weekends. The breakfast quesadilla, the do-it-yourself Bloody Mary bar. I mean, Cover 3 is the jam. Anderson Lane and in Round Rock off of Old Settlers. And hey, when you're ready for the big screen of your dreams, you know where to go. In Austin, Texas, only one place to go. That is Audio Visual Consultations. Our man, Tom McKay, great supporter of, right there. Great supporter of Texas Sports Unfiltered. All you got to do is call 255-8678. Tom and his crew, they're going to bring everything to you, including the best price on big screens, whether it's an 80-inch or 100-inch screen you want. Tom's going to beat all the other prices, and he's going to send his crew. They're going to hang it like a masterpiece in a museum, and you're going to finally have a big screen that makes you feel like you're on the sideline at the game. You deserve that. It is the holiday season. So just call 255-8678. Tom can do, surveillance, electronic shades, new lighting, and of course, set you up with the media room, man cave of your dreams. 255-8678 or go to avconsultations.com. All right, Zay. I'm so excited about this weekend. I can't stand it. I'm hoping my flight leaves and gets to Georgia. That would be great. Not really in the mood to drive across the country. But it really is not a great weekend of games, but there are some important games going on. Obviously, you got Texas, Georgia. You've also got Oklahoma and Alabama. And this is a really interesting matchup because Oklahoma's defense, we know, has been good at, they've been good. They're legit. And that's why the Texas win, the 23-6 win over Oklahoma, I think has kept Texas in the top 10 in the college football playoff rankings. And if Oklahoma were to go to Alabama and pull the upset, man, that would keep increasing Texas's stock. Alabama would come down. How far would Alabama come down as a 2-loss team? Would they come down below Texas and OU? Would OU possibly leapfrog Alabama? I don't know. They'd both be 2-loss teams, so just saying.
Where's Bama at? They 4?
Because they beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Bama lost to Florida State beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's why. They'd get pushed back, but I don't know.
That's a tough one. That would be crazy. And then obviously if Texas were to take down Georgia. And I heard my man Greg McElroy, who I think a lot of as an analyst, he gets all that research from ESPN. He's picking Texas to win in Athens. And look, if Arch and this offensive line they've had 2 weeks of practice to get better. That's a long time. You should be able to come out of a bye. And now Sark's had time to come up with a game plan. He's been he's like, oh, we don't have time to game plan. We got to work on our bull. If Sarkisian is who we think he is, he's been thinking about plays that will work against Georgia every week of the year. He's probably been watching little cut-ups of Georgia every step of the way because he knows how important this game is, how important it is to recruiting, how important it is to this season and the season goals. And look, Georgia's 51-2 in their last 53 games between the hedges. So really, really excited to see what this Texas team brings on the road to Athens. And it's crazy how all these teams have gotten off to good starts against Georgia. It's almost required because even though teams have gotten off to good starts, they haven't won. I mean, the only team that got off to a good start and won was Alabama. So in SEC play. So I think that, the good news is Arch has played well in the first quarter of games this year. And he's played well in the third quarter of games this year. Now, second and fourth quarter have been a little bit of a struggle, but he played pretty well in the fourth quarter against Mississippi State when he had to. So Texas needs to, put a complete game together or they're not going to win. And let's see if they can put it all together right when they have to. This would be something to go out there, look like a fish on a boat deck in some of these games against Kentucky, first 3 quarters against Mississippi State, Florida, and then put it all together right when they have to do it, right when they have their top 5 opponents coming up here in the month of November. So I think it's going to be a field goal game either way. It could be overtime. I think it'll be 27-24. I'm trying to gauge who's going to be on the right side of that, because this is such an interesting matchup to me. And I mean, if you go head to head with the quarterbacks, you have to give the edge to Gunnar Stockton because of how well he's played in the fourth quarter. I mean, completing 80% of his passes, they've had to come from behind to win against Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss.
I don't know on the offensive side, if you had to choose every position group, I don't know where Texas has the advantage there. Maybe wide receiver, but I look at Zach Brand.
I agree.
I look at Bell. They throw a jet sweep or reverse to Bell every game. At least once every game. He had 2 touchdowns against Kentucky on it. He almost took one to the crib against Mississippi State on it. Like, when the ball gets in his hands, he can run. Now, he doesn't always catch the ball. He was one of the big reasons why Georgia led the nation in drops last year, but he has gotten better. And Humphrey,
they don't even rely on him that much. I mean, Zachariah Branch is the guy, but like Colby Young, no one's talking about. Yeah, he was good. London Humphreys with that 4th down touchdown catch against Tennessee.
I thought he was a tight end.
Yeah.
Like, he's that big of a frame.
Noah Thomas, that guy only has 8 catches.
Had a big one last week.
Huge. No, but I agree with you. I mean, the running game, Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens, come on. Their tight ends, come on.
Yeah.
Gunnar Stockton, 80% completion rate in the fourth quarter, come on.
Gunnar Stockton had one play. If you go back and watch that Ole Miss game where he had that read option, it was early. He had a read option. They were on like 25-yard line or something. He has a read option, fakes it to the running back. There's 2 Ole Miss defenders right there. One goes with the running back, ball ain't in the running back's hand, so it don't matter. He keeps the second one, so now it's just him one-on-one with an Ole Miss defender. He juked that Ole Miss defender so nasty, and it wasn't really like he didn't even have time to do that. It was just straight instinct, like that sandlot, backyard football type of just feel that he has. And he just, oops, to the crib, one move. It should have been a tackle for loss. It should have been a tackle for loss. He's so slippery, man, and just tough. I love the guy. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks by far. Like, he looks like his age, or he plays like his age, or his looks. He plays like his looks, which is old as hell. The dude looks 35 years old, and he plays like he's had all this experience, which he hasn't. Like, this is his first real season starting. And he got a little cup of coffee last year, but he's just well beyond his years, takes care of the football, and he's a lot like Pavia, where you underestimate his athleticism, and then he does something like that where he jukes the hell out of you, and now you're watching him take the ball for 20 yards and move the chains. Like, You got to be real disciplined when you're playing against him.
Yeah. And you look at you look at how poised he is. They believe in him, man. He's a gamer, man. He's a scrapper. Scary. Guy's scary because you can tell it matters to him, and he doesn't say much. He just goes out there and gets it done. And
always celebrating with his teammates. They love him. They love that fool. Like you see after the Florida game where Chauncey Bowens has that game-winning touchdown, and just how his teammates were greeting him after the game, like, yo, man, you keep leading us. Like, they have so much confidence in that guy. And you could tell why it didn't go right for Carson Beck last year. You could tell. You could tell Kirby was so quick to switch it up and say, all right, Carson, have a good time in Miami. Hell, we'll send you a U-Haul to get your stuff out of Athens to take down there to South Florida. Like, that's how it was, because it just seemed like everyone in that locker room knew Gunner Stockton mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, Notre Dame and Pitt. It's going to be interesting. Minnesota at Oregon. PJ Fleck. Is this going to be upset Saturday? Is this going to be upset Saturday? Minnesota against Oregon. Pitt taking down Notre Dame. OU taking down Bama. Texas taking down Georgia. Is this upset Saturday, Zay?
Maybe.
Central Florida. My man Eric Henry's Central Florida Knights going out to Lubbock. Catching them napping after that big win over the Mormons.
They going to beat the crap out of them Knights.
Yeah, they got the goods out there. It appears we shall see. Other than that, like Florida at Ole Miss, like Lane's not gonna get caught napping, is he?
I mean,
Baylor
that before.
Could Baylor take down Utah in Waco? This could be upset Saturday. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that feel.
Apparently, ESPN and YouTube TV are working as hard as they've had to finally find a deal. And I think that it's not a coincidence that Texas, Georgia is the primetime game that everybody wants to see. So, yeah, apparently a couple of higher-ups on the Disney side and the higher-ups on the YouTube side that weren't involved in the negotiations are now involved to accelerate the process, because they know Texas, Georgia, come on. They can't play about a game like this. Like, you got to have as many outlets as possible for folks to see this game. Not everybody knows a bootleg sketchy person like your boy, where I can get that, thing on bootleg for the low. Not everybody, people texting me and stuff, DMing me, hey, what you using? I ain't telling y'all. Have the feds at my door like Chauncey Billups. That ain't happening. Don't do it. I knew you were going to show that damn photo. Come on, Chauncey. Come on, man. Free Chauncey.
All right, let's get to the right call.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Before that, though, got to give a shout out to the best car dealership in the land, and that's Covert BK, family owned and operated. I'm sure y'all see Covert all over the place, but BK, that's the place to go. That's the best dealership, in my opinion. And trust me, I know we got our Buick Encore GX there. My wife loved it. The process was just smooth, man. And, I get anxiety over little stuff. So buying a car, my blood pressure was high. My wife, she was trying to calm me down. And then once I got in the Covert B Cave, everything just got calm and smooth. I wasn't sweating as hard. And my man Daniel and Marcus, they hooked it up. We told them our budget range. We told them what kind of car we wanted, and we did our research earlier. We went to covertbcave.com like y'all should do before y'all go in to see what we liked. We saw it, we went in, and everything just worked out. So get like us, go to Covert B Cave and get hooked up, new, pre-owned. It doesn't matter. They will find a vehicle for you. 7 terrific brands to choose from: Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Buick, GMC, Dodge, and Cadillac. Nobody beats a Covert deal. Not now, not ever. All right, Chip. So this Nico Harrison thing has it's gotten more and more icky as the days go on. Because Mavs fans, I know y'all are hyped. Nico's gone. They gave him the boot. But apparently, Chip, this fool Nico Harrison urged Anthony Davis, knowing Anthony Davis has a history with injuries. He urged AD to return early from his calf injury, despite Mavs medical team telling him that there's a chance he could tear his Achilles if he comes back too soon. So Nico Harrison, were you just trying to drown the franchise at this point? Because everybody remembers the Luka thing. People forget Jalen Brunson. He left, and you got nothing for that. It's not like you made a trade with the Knicks for Jalen Brunson. You just let him walk because they weren't willing to pay Jalen Brunson because they didn't see the star potential. And yeah, it clearly didn't work out there. So screw you, Jalen Brunson, be gone. Quentin Grimes. They didn't want to pay Quentin Grimes, who is a role player, but Quentin Grimes on the right team, he could be one of the better role players in the league. And I don't know about you. I've watched a lot of basketball in my day. Those role players, they could be valuable. Yeah, they could do something for you in the long haul. But now he's in Philadelphia, thriving, playing really good basketball for the Sixers. So Nico, man, it's just the more news that we hear, the more it just made sense to fire him. And again, it goes beyond Luka. Even though that should have got him the boot, it goes way beyond that. And I see CB saying my man Draymond's a dumbass. I love me some Draymond, so it's hard for me to talk bad about my fellow dark-skinned brother. But Draymond went on his podcast and talked about Nico shouldn't get as much heat as he's getting right now because in Draymond's opinion, he thinks Nico didn't get a fair shot on what his dream was supposed to be, which was Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, Klay Thompson, all the moves that Nico made recently to form this 2026 Mavericks team. He didn't really get to see it out. I think we've seen enough, though. I get what Draymond's trying to say. Draymond's a big defensive guy. Clearly, we know that's what Nico's mentality was with the Luka trade. He don't play defense. We need better defenders. We can make it work with Kyrie, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, et cetera, et cetera. And we just haven't seen that yet because Kyrie's been hurt. Anthony Davis has been hurt. Cooper Flagg is trying to figure out the NBA game and stuff. So whatever. I get what Draymond's trying to say, but Nico, I hope you're doing well, dog. I hope you don't have to worry about them Dallas fans in your ear all the time. And now he can move on and find the next gig, whatever that may be.
Yeah. How about that? I mean, after that Luka trade, I'm sure he didn't even want to go out of his own house.
No.
I mean, people are coming up to him in restaurants and saying what a bleepity bleep he is, and
yeah, just disrespecting them. You know, nobody deserves that. But then again,
what about Texas basketball tonight?
Yeah, just another get better game. We'll see the rotations. We'll see if Cam Heidi will be available. I still don't know how bad the injury was, but it was bad enough to keep him out the Lafayette game. But yeah, games like this, it's just about building that chemistry, camaraderie, and see this team play with some pace. You know, that's what Sean Miller is all about. You know me, Dalen Swain, put the ball in his hands, let him roll. Like, that's what I would be doing. If I'm Sean Miller, I think Dalen Swain's your best playmaker. I think he's your best point guard, even though he's not necessarily a point guard. I don't think you have that on this team. There will be times where Tremont Mark could do point guard duties, or there will be times where Jordan Pope, Simeon Wilcher is an interesting player too. I think he could be good because watching him last year at St. John's, he did a lot for that team for Rick Pitino. And Rick Pitino, he be tripping sometimes. So I felt like Simeon Wilcher was in the doghouse at different times, but he has a smooth jumper, and he didn't shoot his best at St. John's, but that's one of the easiest things that you could improve on, your jump shot. It's just about reps and the right mechanics and, being in a system that could showcase that if you put in that time during the summer, which with what I saw against Lafayette, he has a promising jump shot. So I want to see him be more aggressive offensively because he's always going to come in with another guard, whether it's Kendall Weaver or in that first game where they started Kendall Weaver and they brought Jordan Pope off the bench. You're bringing in Simeon Wilcher. Now you just got two guards that I wouldn't say are the same, but height-wise, there's not much of a difference with Pope and Weaver and Wilcher. So somebody's going to have to be a scorer. Like we know Pope's going to look for his shot. I'm still curious on Kendall Weaver's jump shot and to see if that's improved. As of right now, I don't think so, but it's only game 2. A lot more basketball to be played, a lot of time to change, my perception on your jump shot. But yeah, this team, I'm very eager to continue to see how Sean Miller figures out his personnel with the rotations and the style of play that he likes.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. Like at first I was thinking, is he trying to, look out for the guys who've been in the program? So he's getting, Tremont Mark, Pope, Weaver, before he moves them out and moves Wilcher in, Cam Heidi in, but we'll see. We'll see. Because the two things I know are Matis Vokatitis and Dalen Swain. Those are the two dudes that look like they're going to be locked in, ready to go every damn night.
Yeah. You can always, those are the two best players.
Yeah. And
I think we know that right now early.
I was hoping to see little more, but it's early. It's early.
Yeah.
Let's see how they adjust to their roles.
On another note, the women's team, Taya Sidbury is a player.
Yeah.
I like her, man. She is grit and grind. Like, I know she's replacing Winitanda from last year. She's better than her.
Yeah.
Just for what Vic Schaefer needs.
Right.
know what I mean? Like
Right.
she fits her defensive mentality, the pace that Vic Schaefer likes to play, and she's a 1,000-point scorer during her time at Utah and Boston College.
Yeah.
So she's going to get opportunities where, she threw up a jump hook with the left hand the other night, and they were playing a rump roast team, but still, left hand jump hook for a righty from like a little bit inside the free throw line. That's pretty skilled, man. Like, I love this women's team. I could preach about them for a while, but we got the open gym fellas. Let's bring them on. Patrick.
Yeah,
Matt.
and Roy, Cam Heidi's been hurt, so we're waiting to see when he comes back from whatever injury he's had. So, what's up, fellas?
What's going on? Yeah,
How we
man.
doing?
I'll throw in for you, Zay. As much as Dalen Swain has been the player on offense for them this year, I don't want him anywhere near being the point guard, because the point guard on Sean Miller's offense needs to get an inbound within a second after that shot goes through the bucket, or after the rebound, the court guard needs to touch the ball, and that ball needs to go up court, and Dalen Swain needs to catch that pass. He needs to be running up court because his attacking ability is really, really good. And I think if you put him in those positions, he's going to be able to get you 15 points a game in transition, just attacking the basket. But if you put him in the backcourt waiting for the ball, it's just going to slow everything down, because that's not the Sean Miller offense.
No,
Sean Miller
I'll
offense
get
is
that.
go, go, go.
Yeah, I get that, but there's going to be times where you're forced to play half court. So
Yeah.
I'd be more in the half court game. If you're in the half court game, you need somebody to orchestrate your offense. I like Swain doing that. But you're right, Patrick. Like, he needs to be running the floor where you can really get out and he can make stuff happen. Just because.
That's where I'm with you. You just want to see if Wilcher can figure it out, because if he can start to see the court well and start to see it, he can become that guy that's able to come in and get the ball moving and Tyrese Halliburton it a little bit and be a point guard who's like, oh, my best job at point guard is if I don't reach half court before the ball shot. Right. The best play I can make. So if I can inbound the ball and kick it down to a Kendall Weaver or Dalen Swain, and they're attacking the basket on a 4-on-3 or something like that while our defenders are still back. That offense is what Sean Miller wants.
About how much he loved Simeon Wilcher because he had to face him, and Wilcher ate him up.
So I'm saying, I'm hoping he figures it out. It's so early in the season that it's just like, who can figure out this offense first? Because right now you can tell everyone still has a little bit of, I'm still trying to figure it out. And Swain clearly knows it the best because it is his second year. So he knows it better than anybody. But hopefully you're going to need to drag at least 4 or 5 other people on to be able to do anything.
Yeah, good point. All right, fellas, have a good show. We out of here.
See you tomorrow.
See y'all tomorrow. Welcome into Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan of Texas Longhorns on SI. And, of course, you, the third member of Open Gym, 512-222-9328 is the text line number. And, of course, over on Facebook, Twitch, X, and on YouTube. Good show coming up today as we get into our NFL Power Rings 5 o'clock hour. Brooks Austin, the film guy, you know him from YouTube as the film guy, coming on at 4:30 to talk some more Texas, Georgia as we continue on that weekend. But happy hump day, Matt, as we're getting through the week, getting closer and closer. Are you still feeling good about your travel day on Friday? You still feeling good? Like it's figured out, no delays, you're good to go?
Well, I don't know. It's it'll be interesting. I was made aware that Houston Hobbies Airport is not quite as bad as the IAH, which is the international airport. So that'll be good. I think I'll be all right there. My big worry is the Atlanta airport.
Yes,
because that place is a hellhole. When it's when there isn't a government shutdown and stuff, that place is a hellhole. So I can't imagine how bad it is right now.
Yeah, all I know about that is I have a friend who loves to get the varsity hot dog when he's there because he is an Atlanta kid and loves to go get a varsity hot dog. That is what he swears by but he's a hot
Well,
dog guy. So if you're a hot dog guy,
You
try that
need to remind me about that on Sunday morning, Patrick, so I can get a varsity hot dog because that sounds right up my alley.
There you go. Yeah, he swears by him. So that's the way to go. Shout out Chan on the text line. Shout out Roy. Appreciate you joining us today as we get into it on a Wednesday edition of Open Gym. And Matt, we saw the polls come out last night. The new polls came out, and you were doing pretty well. I was listening to it. A lot of things you were saying were going well until we got to the end. But we did see Texas stay ahead of Oklahoma. They are at 10. Notre Dame is still ahead of both of them. You were correct that Texas Tech did jump Ole Miss. You nailed that one as well. And then you're going to go to getting down to where we thought maybe after a week, maybe after seeing Indiana struggle, maybe after all of that, we would the committee would come to reality and understand, okay, A&M's just a better team than Indiana is. They're a better team.
They are. They are.
We know they are. It's like blatantly obvious. No, Ohio State and Indiana maintain the top two. The committee chairman at the end, when he was explaining what Indiana had done, mentioned the Oregon game 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 4 things, he said, they beat Oregon, when they played, Oregon on the road, and when they went in Eugene. And I'm like, that's the same thing. You can't list that 3 times. That is one thing they did. You cannot say over and over and over again that they beat an Oregon team that is ranked 1 above the team that A&M beat.
Yeah. They also mentioned that the reason that they didn't really value the Missouri win the same way was because Missouri was playing a true freshman quarterback. It wasn't the same team, Patrick.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. We took that into account, even though we're not taking it. And
but Penn State, who almost beat Indiana, was playing a true freshman quarterback.
But that doesn't matter because the comeback's all that matters. No, it was still crazy to me. I saw Greg McElroy and the crew trying to be polite about it, which is okay. Well, at least they're sticking to their guns. At least we know what they're going to do. So at least we know that now. Now, I can't imagine if A&M finishes undefeated and beats a Texas team at the end of the season, especially if Texas were to beat Georgia, that they wouldn't jump them. Like, that's insane to me. But who knows? At this point, it could just be locks in for Indiana that they think the Big Ten is a better football conference than the SEC, that they think the SEC is overrated in this, and they're going to go ahead and say that it doesn't matter. Indiana's a better team. And then when Indiana gets smoked by 40 points in the first game of the playoffs, it'll be really funny.
Well, I'm going to pull up the new bracket real quick, Patrick. Is that okay?
Yeah.
If let me navigate my way back to that real quick.
Come Aggies by 45. It's not close. They're a much better team
over Indiana.
Yes, it wouldn't be 45, but it would be double digits. They're just a much better team right now.
They are, and so at number 2, Texas A&M would if Texas A&M was number 2, they'd be playing the winner of Texas Ole Miss right now. And Indiana, let's say you would flip-flop those, and then you play the winner of Miami, Texas Tech if you're Indiana. Both of those teams beat Indiana. Texas Tech would be close. Miami, I think, would run Indiana out of the stadium. Either way, I think Texas A&M if let's say Indiana plays Texas or Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss scores 50 on Indiana.
Well, all right. So this brings up the question then, Matt. Do you believe they're looking at the bracket when they make these, and it's not just a let them fall where they may, and then we'll go to the bracket, but they're actually trying to set up matchups where they say, well, we don't want to put Indiana versus Miami or Texas Tech because that game will get 0 ratings. It'll get the worst ratings. And so we'd rather put them in a matchup with somebody that's a bigger name because we don't care who wins, but we'd want the ratings for the game would be better. Like Notre Dame, Ohio State's a really good matchup. Georgia, Alabama is always a good matchup.
Yeah. I'm sure that has something to do with it. And I wouldn't be surprised by the end with the final rankings if like Texas A&M and Indiana end up switching places just so that, by the time that the final rankings shake out, that you don't have quarterfinals between two SEC teams, two Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I still don't understand multiple parts of this ranking. Even the Texas Tech Ole Miss thing, like I thought that might happen. It still doesn't make sense to me. When Ole Miss beat LSU, they were ranked number 5 in the country and they dominated them. The score wasn't an indicator of how much of a lopsided game that was. And Texas Tech beat the number 7 team. And if you do the rest of strength of schedule metrics, I'm pretty sure Ole Miss's is better. But that's fine. Like I don't care about that one so much. It's the Notre Dame Texas. It's the Texas A&M Indiana. It still bothers me. I still hate it. I'll tell you the most interesting scenario that I heard, Patrick, during the show was that the ACC champion might not get in.
That's the real conversation now is can they beat themselves so far out of it? Like, and that's a big piece is like when Pat Narduzzi says, I don't care if I lose to Notre Dame by 100 points ago, you should care because you can lose that game by 100 points and then win the ACC and not get in.
Yep.
Because you'll be knocked down in the ratings so far. You'll be knocked out of that top 25. So I think that one for me, it's like, yeah, it's a silly thing to say. It was just a really dumb quote for Pat Narduzzi to say. And I get what he meant was we care more about the ACC than non-conference. But the way he said it was just terrible. And it's also not a good thing to say with 3 games left in the season.
No.
Like with 2-3 games left in the season, you should say things like every game is now matters immensely. Now, that's maybe not true for Georgia. As we look at Georgia plays Texas, and that's it for SEC play. If they beat Texas, they're in.
Yeah, because even if you lose to Georgia Tech,
yeah, you're still in. So they just have to beat Texas, and then they're pretty much they could rest their players for the next 4 weeks. It'd be fine.
Well, they could rest their players for the rest of the season, and they would still beat the remainder of their schedule.
Georgia Tech might beat them if they rest all their players. Georgia Tech's been good this year.
Maybe I think they're kind of a fraud, kind of a one-trick pony. But
I agree. But they it's a rivalry game. Yeah, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen.
Yeah, that's true. Hair of the Dogs question: who wins versus Ohio State Texas A&M matchup?
Yeah,
I think you'll find out in the national championship game. I think that's probably the best.
They're not making the national championship game, Matt. They're playing good. They're going to choke. We're going to beat them 3 times in a row. I've told you this. We're beating them 3 times in a row. No, I don't think they're a national championship team just because it's again. And look, they proved me wrong before. I think they're an extremely good team. I think someone else will play better in that moment and knock them out. It's just really, really hard to do. But I it's not crazy to say because they are the 2 best teams in college football right now.
Yes, and I don't think it's particularly close that they're the 2 best teams in college football. I think Texas A&M would beat Alabama straight up on a neutral field. I think Ohio State is going to kill Indiana straight up on a neutral field. And I think the same would be said if Ohio State played Alabama and Texas A&M played Indiana. So those are the 2 best teams in the country. Does that mean that Texas A&M is going to finish the regular season undefeated? No. I think Texas has a real shot to beat them. But we'll just kind of have to see. The interesting scenario is James Madison wins the Sun Belt, or USF/North Texas win the American, and Duke wins the ACC. A 4-loss Duke ACC champion is not getting into the playoff. So if you have an ACC team in, then it will be an at-large. It will be Miami. It won't be Duke.
Yeah.
Or it will be Georgia Tech if they beat Georgia.
Fun fact. The Indiana-Ohio State conference championship game that should happen is not going to be a neutral site field, by the way. It is going to be heavy Indiana. because
yeah,
they're
it's
playing that game at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis.
Yeah, which is
So-
about 45 minutes maybe from Bloomington.
And from what you're seeing right now, basically every Indiana fan has already bought their tickets to the game. All Indiana's already bought their tickets. They know they're going, and they've already bought their tickets. It's 45 minutes away. It's going to be a heavy home field advantage for Indiana.
I will say this.
Ohio State
I think
travels.
Ohio State travels as well as any other team in the country. Like when they were at the Cotton Bowl against Texas, it was 50-50.
I agree. I don't think that you're going to be able to. My thing is, I think at least 75 to 80% of those tickets will be sold well before Ohio State is in that game for sure, and they're buying their tickets. I think a lot of those seats will already be taken by Indiana fans. Like I think the majority of tickets are already sold to Indiana fans.
It's possible.
So we'll see where it happens, but no, it is an interesting place to be right now. I don't get why A&M's not number 2. I'm fine with them not being number 1 because Ohio State is Ohio State. They won the championship last year. I'm fine with that. The number 2 thing bothers me. I think they did all right with the rest of the rankings. I still think Texas should be ahead of Notre Dame, but that's maybe me being a homer. So I'll leave that one.
Patrick.
I get it, but I get it, but I'll say I will go. It'd be fine. I don't think Notre Dame's resume is what it is. And that's being an SEC homer too. Just, as someone who watches the SEC every weekend, you get there.
Texas has a better strength of schedule. They have a better strength of record. They have a far superior remaining strength of schedule. They have 2 top 10 wins. Notre Dame has none.
I'm with you. I agree with you.
There's no logical scenario in which Texas should be ranked behind Notre Dame.
But I'm sure they have their argument.
Their argument is that we need to make sure that Notre Dame is as high as we can reasonably make them.
I think their argument is eye test wise, Notre Dame looks better because we watched Arch Manning suffer early in the season. I think that's what it is.
I don't know.
I think eye test wise, we watched the Mississippi State game and we turned it off. We turned it off before the comeback because we didn't see the comeback.
I think that Notre Dame has 2 losses, and they're the highest ranked team with 2 losses because the college football committee desperately wants them to get in.
Oh, I know that. I mean, I'm fully aware that they want them to get in because ESPN wants them to get in, and ESPN owns the playoffs.
Yep.
So it's not complicated that there is pressure from above from the TV to say, well, the bigger names you get in, that's better. If we could not have Tulane and South Florida and all these other teams sneaking their way in, that'd be really great for us. If we could have Miami be in as ACC representative, that would be really great for us. Could we get some teams in that we want to have in and we have video packages ready for? Greg says Greg believes that they are going to make sure to try and separate the Big Ten and SEC matches, so one of each can make the championship. I think there will be representatives enough from both sides that you don't necessarily have to do in that first round. The bigger part of that is who gets the buys, and if the buys are all Big Ten and SEC, then you're kind of stacking the deck already at the beginning of it. You know what I mean? You're stacking the deck that here's 4 teams that only have to win 2 games to get in, and they're all there.
Well, I think there's a scenario. I'm going to pull the bracket back up real quick. Sorry. I think there's a scenario in which Texas Tech gets a top 4 seed. I think if they win out and win the Big 12, and then Georgia doesn't make the SEC championship, let's say they lose to Texas, and then Alabama loses the SEC championship to Texas A&M.
Don't forget, Alabama plays Oklahoma this weekend. I know we're not picking Oklahoma to win, but they do play Oklahoma this weekend.
Well, even if Alabama loses this weekend, they're still in the driver's seat to make it to Atlanta.
No, but not be number 4.
Right. Yes, of course. So you could see Texas Tech be the number 4 seed in that quarterfinal, play the winner of South Florida and Georgia, and then get absolutely train wrecked by Georgia. But that would be interesting because then Alabama probably moves to 6 we'll say.
Yeah,
And
it
that's in
depends on what
Alabama.
Texas and Georgia do. Because if Texas
Yeah.
beats Georgia and Oklahoma beats Alabama, it causes way more chaos.
Yeah. And there's so many awesome scenarios for the SEC championship too, like how Texas can make it.
Yeah.
Still, how even if Texas A&M's only loss in the SEC is to Texas, they won't make it to Atlanta. Like so many cool scenarios that maybe we'll go over that in the second part of the show because I've got a predictor machine that can predict all the different scenarios. But it's crazy. Like the SEC race is nowhere near finished. Not by a long shot.
And Joe, Vandy needs other things to happen. But technically, if they win out, they're in the hunt. They just need other things to happen. They need, first of all, they need their big boys. They need Texas and Oklahoma to be out of the picture. Probably. They need to clear the way because it's too hard for them to jump Alabama and Georgia. Like that becomes harder to jump. So if Texas and Oklahoma get out of the way and don't beat Oklahoma and don't beat Georgia, it becomes easier for them to find that back door in there. But they just have to have the right things happen for that.
I don't think you have to worry about that, Naman.
I think you do. I 100% think you do. I think the Big Ten is a way to do it. I would not predict it to happen, but yeah, the Big Ten has a really, really good team at top in Ohio State.
I'm not any
other team would surprise me, but I think Ohio State has a very good chance to repeat as champions.
I think they do too. I tend to believe that there are 1, 2, 3 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff picture right now that would beat them on a neutral field.
They could. I think that those are matchups, though, that you're going to go, if you played it 10 times, it would go like 6-4.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maybe 5-5.
Yeah, and so it depends on what the weather and, what injuries are there that week and how are the teams come into it mentally. So all of that stuff is there. So, I mean, it's good.
Look, there's been examples of teams who run their way through the regular season and look unbeatable.
Yes.
And then they've gotten to the playoff and they failed.
100%.
So
just like Aggies ran.
Or maybe Ohio State.
And I mean, we got to see
certainly Indiana.
We'll see if this year all the buys lose again. I mean, last year we saw the rest versus rust argument come full circle. So that's another, you have to look at how those go out. Do you really want to get to a bye or do you want to play the game at home because you get that home game? And the reality is you don't mind the home game if you're playing South Florida or if you're playing, a bad ACC team. If you're playing Pitt or somebody like that, you don't really mind the home game as much because, all right, we get to stay in there. We're staying sharp. We're playing well. But if you have to go play Notre Dame or you have to play Ole Miss or somebody like that, and that you're not quite as thrilled to have to play that matchup.
Well, I think that the best seed that you can get in this tournament is the number 5 seed this year, because at number 12 you're going to be playing South Florida, James Madison, or North Texas.
Yeah,
I think Texas Tech probably ends up getting the 4 seed by the end of the year. So your road would be South Florida, Texas Tech, and then probably Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd much rather have that.
We saw last year how unfun that game became with Arizona State. Now, again, if we had a kicker, it might have been different. But that one also was not fun. It just turned bad by the end of it. And that was second game though, wasn't it?
Yeah, they played Clemson in the first round.
They played Clemson in the first round, which was a little tough, but not terrible. You beat Clemson, then you play Arizona State. But you could play some of these matchups, and I'm with you. I think 5 is probably your best because then you're also going to be playing number 4. So you're not necessarily playing Ohio State in round 2 or A&M in round 2. You're playing one of these other teams. So
and Oregon got the number 1 seed last year, and their first game was against Ohio State. And had they won that game, they would have had to play Texas.
Yeah.
So
and Joe, they're going to go to 16. Like they just are. But the funny part about it is going to 16, they're like, well, it'll let everybody. You're like, then the argument becomes who's 17. It doesn't change. The argument will always be who gets left out. You could put a 500 teams and 501 and be like, well, I don't know. I think we're better than 499. It does not matter at the end of the day. Someone's always going to believe that they are getting left out of it. So even if you went to 30, then team 33 is going to be pissed off because they have a better resume. And now you have no real way to prove it either. Like there's no argument once we get past 25 teams. Zero. You're like, did you really watch all these teams' games and you saw them and you believe they're it's just such a because now you're like, we're judging the best 4 lost teams. That'll be terrible. So I think 16, we're gonna get there. I think 8 is the right number. For me, 8 is 8 for me is the right number. 8 feels like you're not getting in. Now, granted, we know Notre Dame would be number 8 right now if that was the case. But
oh yeah, if that was the case, Notre Dame would 100% be number 8. There's no question about it.
But at the end of the day, I think 8 was the right number. They jumped over to 12. It's going to get to 16. It is what it is. And Hair of the Dog, it's not that money is ruining college football. It's idiots with money are ruining college football. It's the idiots who run ESPN and the idiots who run Fox. Those idiots. The same idiots who hired Dave Portnoy to be on Big Noon Kickoff. Those idiots. The same idiots who can't reach a deal and are stealing football from us. Those idiots. Those people that I cannot stand because they don't like sports. They just like money. If we got rid of those people, then maybe we could have something fun. But
do we think that YouTube TV is going to get it figured out by the time Texas and Georgia kick off?
No, I'd be surprised at this point. Apparently they're still far apart. We've been offered refund. We've been offered the credits now. That thing happened now. Where we got our emails, you can get your $20 credit. So I've been shopping other things now. Been shopping other brands now. What's up, CB? Been shopping where I can go. May have to go to DirecTV now. I don't like their setup as much, but
honestly, I just went with the ESPN app.
Yeah,
because that's really, I don't really watch TV outside of sports. Like I'll use streaming services to watch shows and stuff.
I get that, but I watch a lot of sports that are not on ESPN, and I hate ESPN's coverage. So like I watch less ESPN games except for college football. Like NBA, I don't watch their product a ton because they don't like sports. They're not people there who enjoy the games. They enjoy talking crap about everything.
Hulu Live TV is a good option.
So here's the thing. This is why I morally will not go to ESPN or Hulu, is because these are the same assholes who are doing it. They're going to raise their own prices once they shut down YouTube TV. Like once they kill that, they will raise their own prices by $100. They're the same bastards. They're all owned by Disney. All of them are owned by Disney. Fubo's 70% owned by Disney. They're all the same people. That's why they're trying to ruin YouTube TV, is because they're all owned by the same people. So I was looking at DirecTV. The good news about DirecTV for me is that you also get I can watch Astros games on DirecTV. I can watch Spurs games on DirecTV. They have the local sports channels as well on there. So that's why I was looking over at them more, because there's more sports that I will watch every week if I do that. Sling is all right, but Sling also, there's like 7 channels you need, and they have like 4 on one brand and 2 on the other, and then they don't have some other stuff. So I'm like, you guys are just slightly missing the. Sling has been good though for day passes. I'll give you that. They're pretty. It's like $4 or $5 for a day pass. So that one I've been good with.
Can you do that like an infinite amount of times?
I believe so. I mean, for them, they don't
just
care.
do that on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, I don't know if you get ABC on those though. I have to look. I have backwards ways, and I've been doing it with other people. Don't tell anybody. Or you just go to someone's house or watch the game. We'll figure that out. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we know certain brands have ruined everything we love about sports. They continue to do it. All right, Matt, let's get into it. Lucky to have our guest on us with today to talk about Texas versus Georgia. You know him as the film guy on YouTube. You can follow him online at Brooks Austin BA. Welcome back to the show, Brooks Austin. Appreciate you coming back on, man.
Yeah, last time I was on with you guys, I think I was in a very shoddy internet connection on a balcony next to Matt Galatzan live from LA. Is that correct?
I believe so,
Right,
yes.
right.
Yeah,
A
the
little
Elite
bit.
11 camp.
Yeah, a little bit better technology, a little bit better sound, a little bit better image today. Excited to be here.
Appreciate you coming on. So let's get into it for Texas versus Georgia. First and foremost, I know you have been a proponent of Mike Bobo. You have been on his positive side, even though people at Georgia cannot stand him. With the offense being the front runner of this team this year and the thing that is carrying this Georgia team, have you been accepted a little bit more in your ideas being accepted at Georgia, or are you still an outcast with these ideas?
No, look, we have a co-host on the channel. His name's Christian Kirby. He is treating Texas A&M as this, like, I don't care what you do. You better go play in a playoff game before I actually say you're a college football playoff team. Georgia fans treat Mike Bobo the same way. Crap. He will be crap until he wins a national title. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. I mean, we joke about this, but in all seriousness, in 2023, his first year returning as the offensive coordinator at the University of Georgia, when he had Brock Bowers, when he had Ladd McConkey, when Carson Beck was playing good football, they led the nation in third down conversion percentage. They had the second most points per game in the history of Georgia football. Like, they were a great offensive unit in 2023. They're a great offensive unit again in 2025. They were a mediocre unit last year that led the nation in drops and couldn't run the football. Last year was the anomaly. The 2 years outside of the sandwich year that was bad last year is not. That's standard Mike Bobo offensive performances. It's so crazy because, like, the dude left Georgia in 2015 or whenever it was, his last stop at Georgia. And, like, bar for bar, stat for stat, was the greatest offensive coordinator the program had ever had. And then Todd Monken comes down here, wins a national title with the best talented pool Georgia has ever had. And now that's the new standard. If you you suck and you should be fired. So it's just the way fandom is, honestly. I don't think this is subjected only to Georgia football.
Well, so I watched one of your breakdowns earlier today, Brooks, the preview for Texas and Georgia on the Film Guy Network. Always good stuff. Everybody should go check it out. And you talked about Arch and the way that Texas had kind of rebounded over the last couple weeks, like in the last 6 quarters, and how you don't think that it's necessarily much to do with the offensive line making that change in the Vanderbilt game, but just Arch being a dude. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit and tell our listeners what like why you're so high on Arch right now?
Look, I thought against Oklahoma, they did a bunch of, like, let's try to get the ball into the flat and make these guys tackle. They're going to flood the deep concepts. They're going to take those things away from us. So let's give the quarterback some opportunities to get the ball out of his hand. Wisner, after the catch, was tremendous in that football game, really flipped the field several times for them. And then they tried to replicate a very similar game plan against Kentucky to no avail, really, but found a way to win, right? Offensively, it looked pretty stagnant throughout that football game. And then you look at that last, like, really 20 minutes against Mississippi State. And like I showed on the film and like I showed on Paul Feinbaum, like, there's nothing really got better. Like, protection didn't clean up. They didn't all of a sudden, like, find ways to get the ball out of his hand. No, he just competed from dirty pockets. He found ways to extend plays so they could hit deep shots to Ryan Wingo. And yeah, the protection got cleaned up some to an extent against Vandy. But again, I felt like that was more of the quarterback being great than other things around him being, magically patched up in the middle of the season. There were too many problems. And Matt, I think you and I talked about this privately. There were too many problems, and there still are, with the roster for them to just patchwork it all in the middle of the season. Like, we're patchworking offensive line stuff. We're patchworking the fact that we can't run the football. We're we're doing way too much or having to fix way too much. The only thing to get us out of it is elite quarterback play. And I think that's what they're getting right now.
You're muted, Patrick.
We've seen Gunnar Stockton push ahead more and more this season and turn into the quarterback he's being. But one of the fun stats you'll see in this matchup is that in the SEC, the 2 quarterbacks who throw passes behind the line of scrimmage the most are Gunnar Stockton and Arch Manning, because it works. You have really great, talented players. You are able to get them in space and try and move them downfield. How much of Gunnar Stockton's progress have you seen where you're starting to see him step into that role where there's less and less ways to slow him down in this game? And what is the way Texas has a shot to try and find his biggest weakness, even though there may not be a lot of it left?
You know, I think honestly, if y'all would have caught this matchup early on in the year, like third or fourth game of the year, when he was still really struggling to pull the trigger against zone coverages, which Texas kind of lives in, it would have been a much more fortuitous matchup for Texas's defense in this one. And I don't know what's going. Can you guys help me out here? Because I'm having to talk about Texas a lot. Why are y'all banged up in the secondary room? I know Taft's been hurt, but I look up and it's like a freshman playing nickel, number 24, a freshman got mixed in at corner. Like, why are y'all so young all of a sudden at DB? And what happened? Has it been sustained injuries?
So in the Vanderbilt game, Taft was out already with the broken thumb. Jelani McDonald got a concussion early, and then Xavier Filsaime ended up getting hurt by the end of that game.
So it's been
Grayson Littleton, though, the freshman star, has been there all season. He's been a star for us, a real.
There's no doubt that kid's going to be elite. Like, you can tell he's survived. He's playing good football right now, probably 15 pounds underweight. Like, you can see it. It's very clear as day. That is a freshman out there. He's playing good ball. I don't mean to point him out, but it was interesting to see, to me, I was talking to somebody in the SEC about this today. Turning on the tape for Texas and seeing them not be all that great and susceptible in the defensive backfield and be susceptible on the offensive line, that to me is very, very weird to see. Like, how can a roster that has spent that much money, no different than Georgia, no different than Ohio State, I don't mean to single y'all out as a program with resources. There's a lot of these. How are y'all a program with resources that is bad at the premier positions? How are y'all not good at offensive line and DB? And the DB answer is injuries. That makes sense. The one at offensive line is still very, very weird to me. I don't know how that's possible. Y'all's offensive coordinator in the football world is one of the most highly coveted and respected offensive line minds that there is. Like, they pay this guy to come speak to coaching clinics. That's how good he is. So it's very, very weird to me that Texas is up and down offensive line wise.
Well, I think that part of that, Brooks, is because, number one, I don't think they expected the right tackle to go to the NFL after last season because it was his first year as a starter. And he got a 6th round grade or a day 3 grade, and he ended up going out anyway. And I think that kind of set them back a little bit. And I think they just made a couple of bad personnel decisions in the offseason. They didn't prioritize the interior of the offensive line and the transfer portal, which they should have done. And it's been reflected this year. I mean, left guard has been a major, major issue for them. Nick Brooks, who you know very well, is a Grayson high school guy. He's a tackle. And he made his first start of his career, really his first meaningful gameplay experience against Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. And he's been very, very – he had one good game, I think, and then after that he's been really down. So I chalk it up to personnel decisions. I think that they're going to fix that this offseason. I think they've still recruited pretty well there, but nobody, there's no experience there that they can rely on like they have at right guard with DJ Campbell.
And honestly, guys, I don't mean to cut you off, but I find this dichotomy and this split on rosters between veteran old head who's been here for a while, and then there seems to be no sophomore and junior classes on a lot of these rosters, and then it's immediately freshmen. Like, Georgia's got this thing going on too, where it's Ernest Green, 4th year, 3rd year starter for them. And when he's not playing, a true freshman, Juan Gaston, is playing, right? And then they got a Micah Morris left guard who's been there for 5 years and is really just now being in a starting role. And the right guard's a true freshman in Donnie Glover. There is no sophomore, junior class nowadays. And I think a lot of that is because if you're a sophomore or if you're a freshman and now you're a sophomore and you're going into your junior year at Texas, Georgia, or Ohio State, and you're not playing, you better get your butt out of there. Like, Texas is a byproduct of this as well. Hero Kanu was not playing for the first 2 years at Ohio State. Now he's playing a lot at Texas. So y'all get this both ways. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's causing this split in these rosters in terms of age and experience.
Yeah, I think it's that. I also add in NIL and having a budget and just realizing we can't have 3 left guards anymore and 3 DBs. Like, we can have 1. And then when that guy's a junior, we need to get the freshman behind him. or we need to try and get that next guy, but we just can't afford a double stacked roster, which, I mean, especially Georgia right now is probably the first time they've dealt with that in 10 years of not just being able to stack class after class after class. Well, I know we had that senior graduate. We have a junior who's just as good right behind him. And so there was, at the beginning of the season for Georgia, a few more holes that you thought you wouldn't find. Yeah. They feel like they're starting to figure out Texas, that offensive line, the Cole Hudson experiment at center. I think they thought, well, he's good at left guard, he'll be good at center, and he wasn't. They move him back to left guard, and he plays the best he's played all season long last week or 2 weeks ago. So, you just sometimes are trying to figure that out. It does feel like this Texas-Georgia matchup, both these teams, you maybe were licking your lips a little bit earlier in the season, like, oh, if we could play that team, we'll beat them by 20. And now it's staying. They've both evolved throughout. To you on Georgia, who's the guys that have really stepped up? I know the wide receiver room, Zachariah Branch has been great, but, you have some injuries there, and some other guys are stepping up right now. Where on this Georgia roster are you seeing probably the biggest step up in impressive young players?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Elias Williams, the 6'7", 235-pound tight end that was a former 5-star out of high school just a year ago at Camden County down in South Georgia. That is a football player who spent 3 years in a triple option offense as an end-of-line tight end, so he kind of learned how to physically dominate people with his frame and play defensive end, big physical football player. And then his last year, they had a coaching change down there at Camden County. They started running the air raid, so they put him out at wide receiver. So he had 3 years of good fundamental foundation work of blocking people at the point and really asserting his physical dominance. And then a year of, well, I'm going to go for a rack as a true wide receiver, right? Getting outside and getting man-to-man up against corners and figuring out how to run routes and learning how to space and learning how to, like, gear myself down and find windows and zones and, like, learning how to be a weapon and be a wide receiver. And now at Georgia last week on 2 back-to-back plays, you saw exactly that. He isolates on 3rd and 12 against a safety, and he's just too damn fast to put a linebacker on him, but he's way too damn big to ever put a safety on him. And we high point a football, 40-yard explosive. The next play, they run duo right behind him. He gets, again, matched up against a safety on the line of scrimmage, and now you have a 6'7", 235-pound tight end blocking a safety 2 or 3 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. And that's a player, by the way, that's really only getting playing time right now because Ethan Barbour, another true freshman, was starting for this roster at tight end at the start of the season. He broke his ankle. So they are very, very young. I saw a stat the other day. I think they're the roster with the second most freshmen playing at this point in the season in the SEC. So they're one of the more talented rosters in the sport, but they're a really young football team that's getting a lot of juice out of true freshmen. I mean, I think they're playing 4 or 5 of them at this point, and all of them are playing good ball.
Well, Brooks, you've watched a lot of film on this game. You are the film guy after all. You've done a lot of breakdowns. You got more coming, I'm sure. If you're the Texas Longhorns offensively, what is your game plan to try to beat this Georgia defense? Because last season, two matchups, Georgia dominated them on the line of scrimmage. They used that 50 front, 5 down linemen, all those different things, all those different pressures and things that they did to really, muck up what Texas was trying to do offensively. You've seen Texas's offensive line issues and their skill positions and where Arch is right now. What do they have to do to be successful against Georgia?
For me, dust off the Oklahoma game plan off again. Like, we have got to find ways to move our quarterback, get him outside of the pocket. I'm not saying run our quarterback. There's 2 different discussions. I'm talking about moving the launch point. We have to make sure that if we take 30 snaps, if we throw the football 35 times today, 10 of those better be outside of the pocket. He better be rolling. He better be getting out of what is a traditional drop back setting, because I don't believe us to be sound there. When we do get outside of the pocket, we better be hunting explosives. All right. So that's the thing to me. Like, with the first, 7 or 8 football games of watching Texas this year, I would say over and over again, I thought their best passing option was Arch's legs. When he gets outside of the pocket, he does such a great job of keeping his eyes downfield. Guys like DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo do such a great job in scramble drill. If I'm high, come back low. If I'm low, go high. And they hunt explosives when he's outside of the pocket. So I think that is the key in this football game for me for Texas. At this point in the season, I put away any idea of, we're just going to summon balance. We're just going to summon the ability to run the football. No, I don't think that's how this works. I think we, at this point in the year, have to figure out ways to win with the flaws that we already have on our roster. And that's the only way Texas gets out of this. I think they are very similar in style of victory that Alabama was. You got to come over here and your quarterback's got to throw for 340 yards and you got to play sound defense. That's it. That's the way to beat Georgia in Athens this year.
Speaking with Brooks Austin from the Film Guy Network. Brooks, we know Georgia's sack numbers have been down this year. Maybe not the same players on the edge that you've normally had over there. But this is a Texas offensive line that maybe had their best look 2 weeks ago in last game they played, but has been vulnerable to get the pressure in. And you just talked about Arch being able to scramble and get outside. Do you think Kirby and this Georgia team dial up a little bit more pressure onto this team, or do they just say, just go beat us? You can't run on us. We know you can't run on us. So try and go beat us. And Arch, if you're able to throw for 350, God bless you. But I don't think you can.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting matchup because Georgia has all but, I'm not going to say given up outside pass rush, but most of their concerted efforts to get home have come over the guards. And that's a bad matchup for Texas because that's where most of their problems have arisen in terms of pass protection. It's not at left tackle. I think Brandon Baker has a lot of room to grow in the run game, but he's a good pass protector for my money. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem at tackle. It's problems protecting at guard to guard, right, for you guys. For Georgia, you mentioned losing your right tackle unexpectedly to the NFL draft. Georgia had this multiple times over for a variety of different reasons. Tyron Ingram-Dawkins gets a draft grade back of a top 90 eval, and nobody saw that coming. He absolutely dips out unexpected. That's a defensive end that had 4.5 sacks last year for this football team in partial role, by the way, in like spot time, playing behind Michael Williams. They lose Damon Wilson, who is like a top 10 edge rusher in the sport right now in terms of pressure rate. They lose him in the middle of January out of nowhere. I mean, they had conversations with that kid expecting him to be back in Athens, and he goes to the portal and goes to Missouri like that with no, hey, do you want to raise your dollar value? No, it's I'm gone. I'm out of here. So these sudden losses nowadays are things that via the draft and via the portal that can leave you midway through November of the next year going, well, damn, we don't have any pass rush or we can't protect the quarterback. Well, yeah, we had sudden losses that we couldn't prepare for because we're in the middle of a playoff run when the portal's open.
Yeah, no, I think that hits the nail right on the head. And Patrick and I have talked about that a ton over the last couple of weeks, like moving the portal window to the one window right in the middle of the playoff run. That's just going to screw over the teams that are actually in the playoff playing for meaningful football and set them behind because it's impossible to coach and also try to retain your roster and do all the things you have to do to build your roster.
We have to pretend as if making sure these students can get enrolled by January of mid-semester, spring semester. We have to pretend as if this stuff matters. We got to watch out for the calendar. We got to watch out for the school calendar, not the football calendar. Of
course. Yeah, of course. But back to the game because we could talk about the portal for 45 more minutes. On the flip side, defensively for Texas, this is a team in Georgia that has been very dominant in the run game as of late. And their receivers are far different from what they were last year with Zachariah Branch. I think I heard you say earlier today, he leads the nation in yak yardage. How would you defend this Georgia offense with Gunnar Stockton and his legs and all the different things that he can throw at you? And like this is a Texas team too that has gotten pieced up over the last 3 weeks by Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt late in that game.
Yeah, so it's tough because I don't think you can play man-to-man coverage against Georgia this year. Like you feel as if you have to dedicate yourself to the box, which leads to stop the run because they're so good at it and they're so physical at it and their bodies are so big and the offensive line's so great and the backs are so good and the quarterback adds into the equation. So you feel as if you got to dedicate yourself to all these run fits and whatnot. And then if you leave yourself playing man-to-man right now, they are murdering teams. They are absolutely killing teams in man-to-man coverage. Gunnar Stockton downfield hitting these guys. The Dylan Bell iced Ole Miss in man-to-man coverage. Elias Williams iced Mississippi State in man-to-man coverage. Alabama played it one time and got beat. Tennessee tried to play it 13 or 14 times and got killed all 14 times. Their weaponry is too good right now. Their weaponry is too good to just line up and say, oh, well, we're going to cover you. No, most likely you will not. So that's the main problem that they're creating right now. The other thing is, if I were to try to stop Georgia, I would just throw a bunch of mixed zone coverage at Gunner and hope he doesn't process it quite cleanly. But the further and further we get into his progression as a quarterback, some of those problem areas that we saw the first month of the season aren't really there anymore. I felt like he had one miss last week against zone coverage, but apart from that, and it was a miss where we were just a little bit late. Like earlier in the season, he just would have taken a sack. He wouldn't have even tried to throw it. He just would have ate the football. That type of stuff is what really, really scares me for Georgia in this football, or for Texas in this football game, on top of the fact that y'all have not been clean in pass coverage. Like, it is consistently busting routes. I felt like watching the Vandy tape, I felt like Diego Pavia left a good 70 yards on tape and he threw for 330. Like that was really, really interesting to see. Yeah, like Colin Simmons is a game record. Anthony Hill's great. I love Ethan Burke, the tight end as well, or the defensive end as well. Like, the personnel in the box is great. What's going on right now in the DB room at Texas is very, very confusing and concerning.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get Michael Taft back this weekend. That is for sure to get him back there. Brooks, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but let's get to the final of what we think will happen in this game. What do you see being kind of the biggest factor in this game? And does Texas stand a chance, or is this just Georgia getting it put together and they win at home?
First and foremost, does Texas stand a chance? Woe is me. Come on, guys. So y'all have recruited inside the top 3 for 3 straight years. You got a chance every single time you line it up. You should have an expectation to win. So let's do that. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost.
Thank you, Brooks.
I mean, good Lord. I do think there is a real problem here in the sense that as long as I have covered this sport, you can't be one-dimensional. And what do I mean by that? And beat Georgia. You have an ability to stop the run defensively, but you give it up in explosives in the passing department. You're one-dimensional defensively right now. Offensively, you cannot establish the run. You can't establish the run against bad run defenses. You can't establish the run against good run defenses. You lean on the pass department. You are one-dimensional offensively. I don't know how it leads to a recipe to be a well-rounded, fully completed Georgia football team. They don't really have one of these inefficients. They're just really good, top 25 across the board at everything they do. Add on top of the fact that this is a home game. Add on top of the fact that this is the third prep for Glenn Humann, this defensive brainchild, to prepare for this Texas offense. Though the quarterback has changed, I don't believe the system has all that much. I still think it is Steve Sarkisian, Texas offense with a better quarterback right now.
You got a score prediction for us, or you going to pick a winner?
Yeah, I mean, I got it. I think tonight I'm going to go 34 or like 31-27 Georgia. I think it's like a 1-score fourth quarter football game, and I'm going to pick Georgia to win.
All right, brother. I appreciate you joining us, Brooks. Follow him, the Film Guy Network. Great breakdowns every week. You will get to check everything out. He's got tons of prep that you need to go check out for this game as well.
Question: If Texas loses this week and beats A&M, do we stand on the table at 9-3 college football playoff participant? I do. I think that would be better than Notre Dame's 10-2. Just my opinion.
I think you and I are on the same page with that one, Brooks.
Of course you are, you Longhorn homer. I'm giving the unbiased take.
Hey, my take is 3-loss teams shouldn't make the playoffs. But I'll also say this: I'll probably change my mind if we lose this week. But my general take is 3-loss teams shouldn't make the playoffs. We should have less teams in, not more. But that's just me. Appreciate you so much, Brooks. Check him out. Follow him at Brooks Austin BA as well. We really appreciate your time.
Matthew, we'll see you this weekend.
Yes, sir. See you Friday.
Good to see Brooks Austin there. Appreciate him coming and joining the show. Always really fun to have him on. Some great insight there from the Film Guy Network. Go check it out. But yeah, I don't know if I've seen anyone yet. We've had a couple people on. I've watched a lot of things. I don't know if I've seen anybody pick Texas in this game yet.
Well, I'm sure that's about to change.
I'm saying on the national scale. Like, I think some of us will pick Texas, but I'm sure on the national scale, if anybody will actually make the pick for Texas.
Yeah, no, I think that there will be somebody that does. I don't know who it's going to be. Somebody will be a what's the word for it? Contrarian, and they'll come in and they'll pick Texas, but I'm not going to give away my pick this week. It's a little bit different from Brooks's. I'll say that.
All right, yeah, we'll do it tomorrow because you'll be on Friday. You'll be traveling, so we'll get your pick tomorrow.
Yeah, and first of all, if you're going to listen to anybody's breakdown of the Georgia Bulldogs, go watch Brooks. He is the biggest football brain that I know. He knows football better than anybody else that I've ever personally met, and I know a lot of different football people. I disagree with his final score. I'll say that. That being said, we love Brooks Austin. We want him on the show as much as possible. I think Joe agrees here. We will bring him back at some point. Yeah. I mean, I was particularly interested in what he had to say about the Texas offensive line in terms of the Vanderbilt game, because when I was watching that game, I even texted Patrick during the game. I said, whose offensive line is this? This is not Texas's offensive line.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you watch the tape and you realize why that is. Vanderbilt wasn't bringing a ton of pressure with their defensive line. When they were blitzing, it was coming off of, a linebacker or a nickel or something like that coming in on the blitz. And I think that played a big role in it as well. That's not to discount what they did and what they fixed. I thought Cole Hudson played great. I thought Connor Robertson played a hell of a lot better. What I will say is that I think it's going to be very hard to replicate what they've done the last couple of weeks against Georgia's defense.
No, yeah.
In the sense of they love that tunnel screen on the outside. They love it. And that's been the touchdown on the first play of the game against Vanderbilt and the almost touchdown on the first play of the game against Mississippi State. Georgia's not going to miss those tackles. And they're gonna fly to the football, and they're gonna stop that for maybe a loss or a 5-yard gain. Texas ran that play probably, I don't know how many times they ran it against Vanderbilt, a lot. And almost every time they ran it, it went for a first down. That ain't going to happen against Georgia. So they'll need to figure something else out.
No, they're going to have to figure out some different things offensively and defensively. We look at that offense. It's really interesting to see, this is what I was getting at. Colby Young got hurt against Ole Miss, breaks his leg against Ole Miss. That was really their number 2 receiver. They don't have a number 2 receiver anymore. That's not to say they don't spread the ball around, but Gunnar Stockton has gotten better and better in this matchup that you can't really just shut down everything they do because you have to, he just finds somebody open. And that's where it's really hard to play against these teams, where it's a little bit easier when you go, they got 2 to 3 guys. And if you can defend those 2 to 3, the quarterback's going to swallow the ball. He doesn't like throwing it to guys he doesn't know. They have so many young players and so many different players who have come out and catch 1 ball a week or catch 2 balls a week. And they're just all over the field. And that stuff is really hard to defend, especially when you're a defense that has in the last few weeks. Now, especially with Michael Taff out, with Michael Taff in, they're a little bit better about it. But a defense that has either allowed people to get the ball underneath or has allowed bigger breaks in coverage because they're just positioned wrong. It feels like Gunnar Stockton's going to make you pay for those at least a couple times in this game. So I think that there's just a lot of factors that when you look at it, there's a lot of reasons to be nervous about what Texas is going to be able to pull off. And then if you want to look on the positive side, you look at it and you say, well, they didn't blitz, but I think we talk about the offensive line, Matt, and he was asking about why it was so bad. And I'm with you. I think they thought Cam Williams was going to come back, and they thought we're going to bring Trevor Gooseby in at left tackle. We're going to have our right side of the line maintaining, and then we'll have Cole Hudson where either we will play him at center and we'll put him at center, and then we can put someone younger at guard and we'll bring up somebody younger in that position. We like Connor Stroh. We got Nick Brooks coming in. We feel we can figure that one position with somebody new, and Cole Hudson will be good at the center position, and that's all we got to change. And then you lose your right tackle. Then Cole Hudson the center experiment has failed to this point. but he looked good back in that left guard position where he went, okay, that makes sense. He could be guarded left guard.
Mhm.
So maybe it's just he needs to be in that position, and now you're playing a more, still not a good offensive line, but a more sustainable one that will give Arch at least another second to get that ball out. And if that happens, you're trying to go attack a Georgia defense who has allowed some plays through the air and has allowed some things through the air. I'm with you. The tunnel screens and all that aren't going to be as effective. The speed of this Georgia team is not going to allow you to necessarily break through and run everything else. We don't know what Ryan Wingo will get the injury report tonight. We'll see if he's even on it. But at most, that thumb is not 100%. So he will probably have some sort of piece on that thumb, which means they're going to be punching at it a ton. And you may not want to put him in situations where he's getting held up and punched in the hand in these games. So I think there's just a lot of those factors that come into this that like as it goes, it's one of those weeks where you keep going through that you keep looking at all the pieces in it. And I think track record right now gives the edge to Georgia, but that is track record doesn't mean anything. We say, who said it just a minute ago? Joe said, I think we're due. And the one thing you will learn in sports is you're never due. That's not how it works. If the team is better than you, you lose. You're not due at some time. Ohio State would tell you they are due against Michigan. They were due last year. Still didn't win it. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think that there's it's a really, really fun game to break down because there's just such small pieces of it where you feel could be the advantage. And, I think one of the big advantages for Texas is they've had 2 weeks to really look at this Georgia team and break down film, where as much as I'm sure Kirby and their team has been doing it, I'm sure they have plenty of good stuff on it. They haven't really been working on that game plan for 2 weeks like Texas has to try and find those matchups.
Yeah, I think that's going to play a huge role. There are very few people, very few coaches, play callers who I would be more afraid of having 2 weeks to game plan for you than Steve Sarkisian. He's going to be able to find that stuff, and he's going to be able to call the right stuff. So that's why I think Texas is going to have a really good chance to score points in this game. I don't think it's necessarily to the degree that if like Nick Saban had 2 weeks to prepare for you defensively, that you're just going to score 3 points and you're going to have 100 yards total offense. But he's going to have a plan, and I think it's going to work, whatever it is. Another interesting point, just kind of sprinkled in there by Brooks at the last minute, very innocuous. Nobody really noticed it, I don't think. He thinks Arch Manning is a better quarterback right now than Quinn Ewers was last year.
I heard that. He's definitely got more facets to him, and that's kind of the key. I don't know if I would go that far on him yet, but I get the sentiment of it because his ceiling is definitely higher.
It's interesting because if he plays the rest of the season, including this weekend, better than Quinn Ewers played all of last season, this Texas team's going to be really, really hard to beat.
I agree.
And that's with the deficiencies on the offensive line and the inability to run the football, because they had the inability to run the football last year too in the play, like in against a few teams, and they still were able to eke it out. So I'm just saying, could get interesting.
And Chan will say this. He says basically, PD, you're inferring that Texas is screwed. I'm not, because I will tell you the key to this for me of why I'm more nervous about it is it feels like Georgia's maybe a week or two ahead of us and like developing their talent and, and putting those pieces together and feeling like the complete football team that we've seen. We have not seen Texas do it for an entire game. We've seen Georgia start to put that together. We've seen Georgia start to fix those holes, and we've seen Texas start to fix them, and then something else will happen, right? And some other thing will happen, and then you're like, oh, no, the boat's still leaking a little bit for Texas. And the question is the boat patched before we get there? Because if we're both patched boats, then it's a fair matchup. Anything can happen. I just haven't seen the consistency to believe that the boat is completely patched for Texas so far.
Yeah, I need to see it for another. I need to see
Yeah.
everything come together for a week. It's unfortunate that week has to come against the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens in prime time in a top 10 matchup. But it is what it is. This is truly going to be your biggest test of the season. How do you answer the bell?
Yeah.
You win in all three phases. You take care of the football. You get explosive plays on offense. You play sound defense, and you win the special teams battle. That third one is going to probably be the most difficult one of the bunch because, I mean, Texas has been awesome on special teams ever since like the Oklahoma game. It's like I remember talking to BK in the pregame show or like the Friday show before the OU game, and he was saying, I don't trust this Texas special teams whatsoever. Until they're good, I'm gonna consider them awful. And we were all like, yeah, absolutely, that's totally right. And then they were great against Oklahoma.
I agree.
And then they've been great since. So, but Georgia has the best special teams unit in the SEC. So that's going to play a much bigger factor in this game, I think, that people realize.
No, I'm with you. I think that there's a lot to take into it. Chan also said Sark has historically come out very vanilla offensively after 2 weeks. That's true and not true. We heard Harrison Reno talking about this yesterday, that Kirby will often say the first drive, we're kind of not, we're just feeling people out. And I think it's more of that for Sark of, I don't want to show my hand too much. We're going to set some stuff up, but let's coach football. And we don't know what they're coming at us with. So I can't just put together a game plan and go with it. So the vanilla offensively is, let's not make any mistakes. Let's not go out there and throw a triple flea flicker for a downfield pass where Arch gets a sack fumble or we throw a pick in the first play of the game, and it completely shifts the entire momentum for the next 60 minutes. I think he tries to do something where he goes, worst case scenario, we punt. But that's not, we're trying to win field position there. We'll see what they're doing. We'll see what we're doing, and we'll adjust in that moment. I think he does do that. I'm not expecting his first drive or first two drives to be historic of, the last two games. He scored immediately on screens. It was vanilla. And now the way he does it, play callers would tell you is not vanilla. Having, Ryan Wingo in motion and all of that is not quite as vanilla as what it looks like. But if you just go on the on top of thing, it was a screen pass. Yeah. One that if it drops, cool. Second down and 10. And I think but it's not second down and a sack. It's not an interception. It's not Arch running for his life and taking a hit. It was everything in there to make it a little bit easier to flow into the game and get things going. Again, you're talking about going on the road where Texas struggles. The blood is pumping. Like, you can barely hear, not only because of the crowd, but because that blood in your head is thumping so loud because it is such an intense moment. And you look across at a group of 5-star defenders who all want to kill you. It is that all those things together make it more difficult. And you go, just let them throw a screen and complete it. Even if it's 3 yards, we don't care. Now, the problem is when you throw that screen and it's -4. But that's where you got to be able to block. You got to be able to run these plays to perfection. I think they've gotten better at that.
Yeah, I think they've definitely gotten better at that. It's I think you're 100% right. I think Texas didn't really change anything on their first drive over the last 2 weeks. Not a thing. They just threw a screen pass. And then Ryan Wingo just turned into Superman and made people miss and damn near scored 2 touchdowns on 2 plays. You're just kind of, and you're right. Kirby does it on defense too with Georgia. You're just kind of dipping your toe into the water.
Yeah.
And you're seeing what the temperature is and what they're going to throw at you and what their pressures are looking like and all this different stuff. And that allows you to build your game plan the rest of the game. And I know you've got the opening script, but more often than not, the script gets tossed out the window because something happens in the game on either side of the field and you need to change your order of operations. So I think that they'll probably do the same thing that they've done the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and they're going to come out with the same kind of opening game script, and then whatever happens after that happens. I will be interested to see if he tries to take a shot on the first drive, just out of, like we talked about yesterday with the the fake screen in a deep shot or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see. I don't think he'll do that though. I think it's going to be very similar.
And look, he could take that shot, but that shot gets taken on your second first down, your third first down. It's not in your first set of, it's not your first play. You're not taking that out in your first play. That's one of, okay, we feel like we're starting to eat into it now. And now Georgia's on their heels a little bit because they were hoping to go 3 and out to start the game, or they were hoping to go quick. And now we've got a couple first downs. They're starting to get a little more tired. Let's try and take this one on him now. But yeah, he normally saves that one for a little bit. The problem is he makes some of those plays when you go first down, he runs the ball, runs into a brick wall, it's 2nd and 10, and then he takes that shot, and then he goes, it's 3rd and 10 now. We're screwed again. Now we're back in 3rd and long. We have to make a heroic play to get past it. So we see that happen a lot.
I think that this is as well as you have seen Arch play the last 6 quarters of football.
Yeah.
This is going to have to be Arch Manning's hero game if Texas is going to win.
Oh, this has to be the Arch coming out party. Either that or Trey Wisner or CJ Baxter has to have, 150 yards and we all just go, holy crap.
Yeah.
I will tell you, the Arch Manning game is much more likely.
Yes. Georgia's run defense is unbelievable.
Yes.
Which also would lead me to believe that I think you're probably going to see more CJ Baxter in this game than Trey Wisner in terms of running the football.
We'll see.
That being said, Arch is going to have maybe this guy is a Heisman contender type game for Texas to win. 100%. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. We'll look into some tiebreaker scenarios as well. If we have a little bit of time, we got our NFL power rankings to hit, whole lot more. And of course, whatever you guys want to talk about, we always hit with you guys. We'll hit that here in about 2.5 minutes, coming back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
At Sleep Cycle Center, we can treat your sleep apnea in various ways. My story starts 15 years ago with the loss of my father to undiagnosed untreated sleep apnea. And this is a very preventable disease, and treatment options are various. Millions of people across America have sleep apnea, and they fail to realize the early warning signs. Fatigue, daytime sleepiness, and snoring are the most common signs. We'll find the best solution using advanced technology, oral and epigenetic appliances, or CPAP. We offer weight loss, oral surgery, and laser treatments. Schedule your appointment today and get your sleep evaluation.
If you're looking to remodel a kitchen, renovate your bathroom, or maybe add some new life to your outdoor space, reach out to our friends at McCall Custom Homes. They are custom home builders and renovators here in Central Texas, and they've been doing it in Central Texas for more than 40 years. It's a father-son team with a ton of experience, and all of that experience is here in the Austin area. So they know what it takes to turn an Austin area home into something truly, truly special. Right now, our friends at McCall Custom Homes are offering free estimates to TSU listeners so they can come out to your place, hear your vision, they can tell you what they can do, and then you can go from there. Don't just take my word for it. Check out their website, McCallCustomHomesATX.com. Look at the gallery of jobs they've done over the last 4 decades. And then when you're ready, again, reach out to them and they will come to you. McCallCustomHomesATX.com, or you can call or text Mike McCall directly at 512-633-9580. It's McCall Custom Homes. We build value into your home.
Field goal, end zone, interception.
What's up, kid?
Just trying to write a new commercial for audiovisual consultations. You know, football season is about to start.
Okay, so what have you got so far?
Roses are red, violets are blue, football is awesome, our installations are too.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting what I want.
Okay, how about my football lies over the ocean?
Boy.
Yeah, I guess I just don't really understand this sport. Like, think about hockey, a sport played by real men. Fights, no TV timeouts, and no flopping.
Yeah, that's why Audiovisual installs systems so that every customer feels like they're right there on the field.
People's love for football might be hard to understand, but ABC can tackle any residential or home improvement to get you ready for the big game.
Now you're getting it.
Ready for the halftime show?
What?
Hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
Just call us at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered, Hour 2. Myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan here of Texas Longhorns on SI. Text on 512-222-9328. And of course, Chat, Facebook, Twitch, X, and on YouTube is where you can find us. Love having you along with us here on another week of Open Gym as we get closer and closer to the Texas versus Georgia game. A huge, huge game this week, Matt. We see Eddie says exactly no turnovers or sacks in the first quarter to set a bad tone, and also has a handful of last second safety valve passes 3 to 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, tackled right away for a loss. Yeah, and I get those because for Arch, by the time he's seeing it and letting it out, he can't realize that the play is well covered that way, and it's kind of on the guy who's going for the catch to just not catch it and put it on the ground, but that's very hard in the moment because you're trying to focus on the ball and not the tackle that's coming. So it just becomes really hard to get that play done right. You just hope to not have those moments where you are, the outlet is 5 yards behind the line and someone's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to run those types of plays, they have to just be snap and throw. Like it can't be one of those ones where it's like a long developing play action or a pump fake one way and then a screen back the other way. You got to get the ball out quick so those defenders have a harder time closing on the football, and you avoid those kind of 3 to 5 yard loss disasters. Naman, the run game being hindered by Sark's lack of calling the correct runs. I tend to disagree. I think it's just been bad offensive line play for the most part. I do think he needs to call more outside zone. I will say that. But his scheme is built on being able to control the line of scrimmage and run up the middle at certain points to set up play action and which sets up explosive plays downfield. So you have to try to have that in your game. Ideally that's what he wants in his game. But I think he's realized over the last couple of weeks, like, there's no more time to wait for those things to work.
Yeah,
we just gotta do what's working.
Yeah, and the key point to it all is the run game doesn't matter if they can tell it's a run or a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get to that world where they know every single play that we have to run basically a different formation, that's not how we want to throw the football and set things up and do things completely differently to get 6 yards on the ground. Well, 6 yards doesn't matter as much because now whenever we line up like that, they're going to line up to kill the run. And whenever we line up another way, they're going to send everybody to go get Arch Manning. And so there's different worlds of why it's really difficult and why you're trying to set the tone of you don't know when play action doesn't work unless you're pretty much running the ball up the middle. So all the things he's trying to set up by running the football and getting it going, you have to be able to run out of the same sets you're running passes out of. And they have not had success because of the offensive line to be able to get that going. They've been trying different things. They're trying to get the ball out. Also, they use the extension of the run game, which is hitting Trey Wisner in the flat, which Trey Wisner's been pretty good at this year, is getting him hit out in the flat. Sometimes he calls run pass options. And if the run's not there, he called a run play. An RPO is a run play. He called it. This could be a run, but the defense isn't there. So Arch is calling not the run play now. He's going to go to the pass. So there are those in there as well where Sark's going, instead of just going straight up run plays, he's going, let's see what the defense gives us. They're giving us the pass. So throw the ball.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I feel like Texas, for the most part this year, has been predictable in the run game in large part because of the way they've lined up.
Yeah.
Because Texas has done two things that have for the most part telegraphed exactly what they were going to do for a large majority of the season. Number one was when Ryan Niblett's in the game, he's getting the football.
Yeah.
That was one of them. The other one, which I think has been more of an issue, is when we're in 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 1 running back, we're running the ball. And we're probably running it up the middle. That kind of changed over the last couple of weeks, particularly in the final 20 minutes or so of the Mississippi State game and throughout the entire Vanderbilt game. Texas ran a lot more 11 personnel. And even when they were running 11 personnel, it was kind of a broken 11 personnel with the tight end, like either lined up in the slot or something like that, or off the line of scrimmage. I think you're going to see a lot more of that, not only this week, but for the rest of the season, because it keeps the defense guessing. We don't know what you're going to do now because you're not telling us anymore. And that's the reason why I think they've been more successful these last couple of weeks. Plus, Arch is just unbelievable.
Yeah. And Naman, I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. I'm not, you're not wrong on this. I'm trying to give you reasons of why they're doing it. And there isn't, like, it's one of those things where you go, he needs to make more creative play calling. And then you go, okay, what play is that? And you go, oh, it doesn't exist yet. No one's ever run that thing that would work on this team. So there are certain limitations you have to deal with within the talent of what your team has been able to do this year. I'd love it if they found a way to run the ball better. But in the games where Trey Reisner's run, it's doing the same things they've done all season. Just some of these teams are getting access, the offensive line plays better and gives them a little bit of room, and others they're not. And, so at the end of the day, it's they just have to keep kind of churning away at it. Plus, Sark will tell you this again and again. He's like, I don't want to major in doing things that aren't going to work at the end of the season. So if I'm pulling all this weird stuff out against Kentucky to run the football, and then I go to Georgia and none of that works because they have the speed, it's the point of doing it. Because we're not trying to be bowl eligible. We're trying to win national championships. So you have to have a different mindset in that. So I get all that. Naman, I'm with you. I'm hoping that he will continue to find ways, better ways to run the football. I'm 100%. Texas doesn't have the same shot of winning this weekend or against A&M or anywhere else if he does not find a way to do it. I'm with you 100%, Naman. But I do know the limitations and the reasons why he has struggled to do it so far this season. So I will give him a little bit more of a break, but I do think he has to continue to try and figure it out because we've seen it work a little bit at times. But I'm not expecting a lot of running against Georgia. I'll say that as well. That run defense is good, so I'm not expecting a ton out of that game this weekend. Matt, I wanted to check out. You told me you had a tool now.
Yes.
To do some tiebreakers and look at this real quick while we have a minute before we'll do our NFL power rankings. But looking at the SEC championship standings and where they're at, it's an interesting one. A lot of these are actually pretty interesting because there's a lot of different things that could happen. Right now, you have the path that if everybody keeps winning, Alabama and A&M play. That's what it is. Once one of those teams loses, things start to get a little bit different, especially if Texas beats A&M. It throws into the scenario, well, now they have the tiebreaker over A&M, which the first tiebreaker is head-to-head, but they do not have it against maybe some other teams. They would have it against Georgia as well if they won that game. So if they win against both those teams, then they are now have the tiebreaker against two of them. And then it would be, well, where does the third tiebreaker go against an Ole Miss team that also has one loss? Once we get into two losses, it gets even crazier. If Alabama loses as well and you put them in that scenario, which two teams are getting in with one loss, they all become pretty weird. So, Matt, you've pulled up the tiebreaker scenario. So let's go in there and just say, just for the flat record, what happens if Texas wins out?
If Texas wins out and everything else stays chalk, this would be your SEC championship game. Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yeah,
A&M would not make it. You'd play spoiler. You would knock A&M out of the SEC championship game, and that's based on this factor right here. With Texas A&M above Texas based on the record versus common conference opponents, all played one time, and Ole Miss is above Texas A&M based on conference opponent win percentage. And of course, this is all if everything else stays chalk, right?
Yeah.
If we want to change up that scenario, we can literally pick the winners for every single thing. So just tell me what you want to see, Patrick, and I'll make it happen.
Okay, so let's then throw in. Let's throw in Texas wins out, but Alabama loses to Oklahoma.
Okay. Anything else? Just those.
Just those. See if that changes up. Yeah.
Alabama and Ole Miss in the SEC championship game.
Okay,
still.
So they have to lose two to pretty much get knocked out at this point.
Yeah, they would have to lose to Oklahoma and probably Auburn. I guess those are their only two games left. So against SEC teams. So in that scenario, they drop all the way to 6th. Ole Miss would play Texas A&M even with the loss to Texas, and Texas would not be able to make it.
Okay. So Texas is going to have a lot of things happen to get to this SEC championship game is what you're telling me.
Yes, Texas is going to have a lot to happen. This was a lot more fun to play around with when before Texas A&M played Missouri.
Yes.
But if, let's say, South Carolina pulls off a miracle and Alabama loses those 2 games and Texas wins out, then you have Texas and Ole Miss in the SEC championship, and my brain doesn't know what to do with itself.
All right. Well, let's go with Texas winning out. Alabama wins. And then the only thing we get is that Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State.
Okay, so you're saying Alabama wins both of their remaining games,
yes,
and Texas wins out, and
yes,
Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State. So my nightmare scenario.
That
is Alabama and Texas in the SEC championship. So that's a lot more navigatable of a path.
Yeah, that's what I thought was the navigatable path.
Yeah. So as much as you don't want to, everyone, you probably want Alabama to win out, and I know everybody would hate to see Ole Miss lose to Mississippi State, so we don't want that to happen either. But that's the only way that Texas can make it.
Yeah, there's a few other ways I think you could technically find it, but it takes a lot more chaos. Like it really. Let's just play in this one real quick, Matt. Let's play everyone. Texas wins because that's an upset. All upsets this week.
All upsets this week.
All upsets this week.
And the rest of it stays chalk.
We'll leave it chalk for now.
Okay. So that would mean Texas wins out. Everyone else wins what they're supposed to win. Okay, let's see what happens. Texas and Alabama in the SEC championship game in that scenario.
Okay, so all we need is every underdog to win this week, and we're good to go.
Yeah, well, I think that what the real scenario would be is win out and then hope Mississippi State beats Ole Miss, which I'm not going to be able to cheer for that, guys. I'm sorry, I just can't.
We'll see. We'll get you down to it at the end. But no, all we need is the South Carolina to win this week, Florida to beat Ole Miss, Mississippi State to beat Missouri. Well, actually, let's put it this way: Florida beats Ole Miss. Wait, go back. We're gonna go Florida beats Ole Miss because I think this changes common opponents.
Okay, Florida beats Ole Miss.
So A&M still beats South Carolina. Missouri, whoever
that game doesn't matter. This game doesn't matter. And
Texas
Alabama
wins.
beats Oklahoma.
Alabama beats Oklahoma.
Okay, and then everything else stays the same.
I think so. Yeah.
Alabama and Texas in the SEC championship.
Yeah, because once again, I mean, it also puts them as a 2-loss team and knocks them out. But yeah, the Florida 1-2 for Texas is kind of the same opponent they have with Ole Miss. I know one of them at least.
Yeah, this is a much more easy scenario for me to get my head around in my brain and not go crazy. Is if Florida beats Ole Miss instead of Mississippi State.
Let's see. What does Naman say? What if we beat the Aggies or Bulldogs, beat one of them, and the other one is a point defeat? Is a 1-point defeat? Does Texas make the playoffs? Well, that's a different thing. So we'll get into that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Eddie says so. Only Mississippi State upsets. Ole Miss gets Texas in besides a miracle. Yeah. Basically Ole Miss has to lose.
Mm-hmm. Texas has to win out, and Ole Miss has to lose one game, and you make it to Atlanta.
Yeah. Ole Miss and basically A&M and Alabama have the front track to get there. If Texas does spoil A&M's chance to get to the SEC championship game by beating them, Ole Miss jumps in as a team there. So now you can roll in their different scenarios and how that goes, but we'll know more after this week. But I appreciate that, Matt. We'll have to play with it more next week to find any scenarios.
I want to give you guys one more scenario in a different conference. The ACC.
Okay.
All right. In the ACC, Duke wins out.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech loses to, let's say, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh loses to Miami. What was the other one that I needed to put in here? I think there was one more that I needed to switch. I think that might be it. Let's see. Duke and SMU is your ACC championship game. That is the nightmare scenario.
Oh, it could
for
happen
the ACC.
seriously.
It could. You just need Pittsburgh to beat Georgia Tech, and then there is a realistic scenario, especially if Miami loses to one of these teams. Like if Miami loses to NC State this weekend, there is a realistic scenario that there is no ACC team in the college football playoff.
Craziness. So going back over them on, though, we'll go back to yours. What if we beat the Aggies or Bulldogs, beat one of them, and the other is a 1-point deficit? Does Texas make the playoffs? This is what we kind of talked about with Brooks, the 3-loss Texas team. I still don't really see the path to getting in, but I don't think Texas – it requires more chaos. It requires some more of those teams to get knocked out. Now, if you have to say Oklahoma loses to Alabama, that clears someone behind you that would jump you pretty easily. Like, how many teams might jump you at that point? But I just like, I feel like they're very willing to knock Texas out of this. If they lose to Georgia by 1, I don't think they can climb back into it. Let me put it that way. And so I think it kind of the A&M game may be different because the A&M game, if you're already in, you already beat Georgia, but I don't know if they're going to be able to jump back in. I think it would be easier for them not to fall out. Let me put it that way.
Here's the scenario that I think Texas makes it at 9-3 that isn't crazy. I think Oregon needs to lose to either USC or Washington, preferably Washington, I think is the one that you'd want them to lose. And Washington kind of owns Oregon right now. They've beaten them 3 out of the last 4 times. Pittsburgh beats Notre Dame. I think if those 2 things happen and Texas loses to Georgia or A&M, then you get in as a 9-3 team over a BYU or a Utah or something like that. That's the most realistic. It's going to be hard either way. But a 9-3 Texas, if Oregon loses and is 10-2, a 10-2 Oregon with a loss to Washington, I think Texas gets in over them.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see what they come up with. Patrick says we can get in with Manning. I don't think they're showing. I think there is bias, but I don't know if there's enough. We will see at the end of the season. Maybe not. And
think about how much ESPN could run Arch stuff and make so much money off of Arch Manning making the playoff.
It
would be unbelievable.
But I think we'll see with that one. I still just don't believe it'll happen, but that's me. And Eddie says, how do they not? The actual rules of the playoffs are the top 5 conference champions. So basically, if the ACC beats themselves out of the top 25 and their conference champion is number 30 and there's 2 smaller conference champions ahead of them in the rankings, then they would be able to get in.
Yeah, so it'd be the American champion, which is going to be North Texas or USF or something like that. And then theoretically like the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Either that or another Big Ten. I don't know. Like it would have, like San Diego State, I think has 2 losses. If they end the regular season with 2 losses and win their conference championship, then they would probably be in the top 25.
Yeah. And this one too. If Texas gets into the college football playoff at 9-3, because the rest of college football hate us even more. They will. And by the way, if Texas were to get in at 9-3, the main piece of excuse used in every argument by the college football playoff committee would be, we are not punishing them for losing to Ohio State. So in our minds, they're a 2-loss team. That would be their argument. And I think that's really the only argument you can give is we are not punishing teams for taking early non-conference great games. We want more of that. I don't think the committee gives a flying rat's ass about it because Indiana's number 2. And if they gave a shit about playing good teams, Indiana would be 5 right now. I'm tired of this. Lower. Indiana should not be where they are. It's horrible that they canceled Virginia and then get rewarded for it.
Well, what if they end up not getting rewarded? What if they end up getting punished for that?
Oh, I wish it would have been really funny if Virginia was the team that got in, like somehow by winning the ACC and then ends up knocking them out of the playoffs. That would have been just masterfully done in college football. Like, oh, you don't want to play us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, theoretically, that could still happen, Patrick. If Virginia beats Duke this weekend and everything else stays the same, Miami wins and Georgia Tech wins and all that, it's Georgia Tech, Virginia.
Yeah.
And then if Virginia wins that game, they're probably the 10 seed?
Yeah.
And who does the 10 seed play in the second round?
It could, but they make it to the second round.
Well, I'm just saying, if they're the 10 seed and Texas Tech is the 7 seed.
Well, I mean, we also have to throw into the account. We don't know where Indiana is actually going to be seated after the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, they'll probably be 3 or 4.
But I mean, if they lose by 40 points, I don't think they would, because I don't know if Ohio State would run up the score at any point. But
I would if I was them.
I think I would rest my players, but morally, I'd want to run it up on them. But yeah, that to me is, because there is that equation of they're probably not going to be a 2 seed by the end. They will, look, I'll put it this way. I don't think there's a way where Indiana finishes as the 2 seed. I think Indiana either finishes at the 1 seed because they beat Ohio State, or they finish at 3 or 4 because they lose the Big Ten championship game. I don't know if you can lose the SEC championship and stay as the second best team if there's another team right behind you. If Alabama is still right there and Alabama wins the SEC championship, they're number 2.
I'm just going to pull this up one more time. I know we have to get to the NFL power rankings.
Oh, yeah, good.
But in that scenario, if Virginia gets in and they're the number 11 seed where Miami is right here, and Indiana loses the Big Ten championship and they drop to 3, it's Virginia and Texas Tech, or Virginia and Ole Miss, or something like that.
No, there's still a lot to be there. It could happen, but I would not. It would surprise me. It would be hilarious, though.
It would be poetic justice.
Oh, it'd be so great. It's their first playoff game, and they're all pumped, and then the team they canceled non-con on just smokes them.
Yeah. Oh, and my Highland Park kid, Chandler Morris, being the one doing it.
No, I love it. It's almost my favorite thing that could possibly happen, which is Texas playing A&M 3 times and beating them all 3. That's still my favorite idea.
There is a scenario. There is a scenario in which they play.
Alabama has to lose some.
Yeah, but how fun would that be? The
Texas
A&M SEC championship.
Just beating them 3 times in a row. Oh, sweetness.
Be great.
Let's get to some NFL power rankings. We have about 20 minutes left in the show, so let's hit these real quick, Matt. We'll pull up what we had last week. We'll see what we want to change in this. It feels like we're getting closer to knowing what our rankings are, so we're not going to move too much, but that number 1 team is probably going to move down once again. It seems to be. Being number 1 on our power rankings is not good for your health as a team. As we see, the Buffalo Bills, of course, get smoked by the Dolphins 30-13. Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose to the Patriots 28-23. The Lions do beat the Commanders 44-22. The Eagles won on Monday Night Football 10-7 in that horrifically ugly game. The Rams taking control. Rams going to move up these rankings even more. Matt is thrilled over there. I can see him. He's texting his buddy Matt Stafford right now saying, "Don't worry, buddy. I'm going to vote for you for number 1." Rams win 42-26 is your tier 1. We saw the Colts get back on track with a 31-25 overtime win there against the Falcons. That was the big game in Berlin that happened this week where Jonathan Taylor ran off for everything, 244 and 3 touchdowns, just destroying fantasy football leagues in a single bound. The Seahawks again beat the Cardinals 44-22. That is a huge game this week, Matt. Maybe one of our picks, Seahawks Rams, is going to be a really, really good game this week, but they get a good win as well. The Chargers are winning with their lowest rated PFF lineup for offensive linemen you've ever seen. They are everyone on that offensive line is within the last 3 of PFF rankings for offensive line. But they still beat the Steelers 25-10. Patriots, we said, already they end up beating the Bucks. We saw the Broncos in an ugly Thursday night football game that makes us all want to cancel Thursday night football if we had the choice. Chiefs had a bye week, and Packers lose to the Eagles. That is your top 12 in your first 2 tiers right there, Matt. What do you like to move around in your top tier here? We'll say, do the Lions, Eagles, or Rams move up to number 1, or do you leave the Bills or Bucks after losses from both?
I think the Lions are number 1.
Okay.
Because Buffalo got blown out, so they don't deserve to be number 1 anymore.
Yep.
I still think they're probably going to win the Super Bowl, but Detroit's number 1. Rams are number 2.
All right, I'm with you. Rams are playing great football right now.
They're so much different of a team than when they played the Eagles earlier in the season.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with both of those. I was giving you a little bit more grief about it earlier on. I am going to move.
I'm a bit of a homer.
I do want to move up one more team into tier 1, though.
Seahawks.
I want to move the Seahawks into tier 1.
That's fine.
They have earned it. They are in tier 1. I want to put them at number 5. How do you feel about them at number 5?
Who's at number 6 now? The Eagles?
The Eagles would be at number 6 if I do that, yes.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Screw the Eagles.
Screw the Eagles. I want to move them down to tier 2. I really do. They're just not a good football team. They keep winning.
When they get their next loss, they are tier 2.
All right. So we'll put it there.
They're 13-2 at the time that they lose. Like they're moving down.
They're just I can't stand them. They're not fun to watch. They're just not good. So that puts us at tier 1. There is Lions, Rams, Bills, Bucks, Seahawks, and Eagles. Does that seem right to you?
Yeah, it does. And NFC's good, man. NFC's real good.
Then we go down to tier 2. I have the Colts still at number 7 on that one. And it's hard for me to move the Chargers down a spot on this one. Because I think that they're not bad, but I kind of want to move the Patriots above them.
Have they played this year?
Have they played each other? I don't think they played this. The Patriots just beat the Bucks. They've beaten the Bills. They've beaten good teams.
I'm fine with it.
So I'm not going to move them down a ton. They're literally going to go from 8 to 9. Even though they got a win over the Steelers, they're going to stay right about where they're at.
Yeah.
Then that puts us Broncos, Chiefs, Packers. Chiefs were off this week. The Broncos got an ugly win. The Packers an ugly loss. Looking at tier 3, what they were able to do this last weekend. We see the 49ers take that loss to the Rams. The Steelers took that loss to the Chargers. The Vikings took a loss to the Ravens as the Ravens are starting to climb back up that list. And the Jaguars blew a giant lead against the Texans.
Yeah, I think it kind of stays with the Packers at 12 just because everybody behind them lost.
Yeah, there's no one that really jumps up. So that stays in there. Broncos, Chiefs, Packers feels like that's still okay and intact there at 10, 11, 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
That drops us to tier 3. We said all of those teams. Let's look at tier 4 and who we like in that tier 4 matchups. Tier 4 happened over the weekend. The Bears have the comeback win over the Giants, 24-20. The Carolina Panthers lose a game to the Saints. They drop down to tier 12 again. The Texans comeback win over the Jags. Falcons lose in overtime to the Colts. Playing run defense like the Cowboys, and the Cowboys had their bye week this week. So looking at tier 3 now, where we're at, that was tier 4, people, but I don't know if anybody moves up out of tier 4 into tier 3 this week. The Texans and Bears both won, but neither one of them won decidedly against good teams to really bump them up a ton. We could say that the Texans move above the Jags because they did beat the Jags, but
I think we have to do that.
Okay. So where do you put it now on your tier 3 then?
I think you just flip flop the Jags and the Bears.
So Bears jump up to 16. And the Jags are going to drop down to tier 4 now because they're playing tier 4 football. And that'll put them at, do you want to put them behind the Texans in that group?
I know you really want to, so we can make it happen.
So the Texans will be 17. The Jags will be at 18. And then we can go into Panthers, Falcons, and Cowboys. Well, let's talk about tier 4 because in tier 5, we are going to jump up the Ravens this week. They get another win. They are now 4-5, 27-19 win over the Vikings. They're playing much better football now than they were at the beginning of the season. Much, much better football. Cardinals lose again. Commanders lose again. The Giants lose again and fire their coach. So do we move anybody from tier 4 down to tier 5? And we're moving the Ravens up, but where do the Ravens end up going into tier 4?
I think they stay at 22.
Behind the Cowboys still?
Yeah, but they're in tier 4.
But I think the Ravens are clearly better than, like, they're 4-5. The Falcons are 3-6. The Panthers are 5-5. I just, like, I think they're better than those teams right now.
Okay, move the Falcons down to tier 4 then, or tier 5.
Yeah, the Falcons have just not been able to do it. So the Falcons are going to take a drop down to tier 5 now.
I didn't realize they were 3-6. That's really bad.
Yeah, that's really bad. And I'm going to move the Panthers down too because they lost to the Saints, and that's an egregious offense. They're not in tier 5, but they are now at the bottom of tier 4 because that's what happens when you lose to the Saints.
Okay, so then we're 17 Texans, 18 Jags, 20 or 19 Cowboys.
19 Cowboys, 20 Ravens, 21 Panthers. Which then puts us with 21 Falcons.
Yeah,
right?
Or 22 Falcons.
22 Falcons. 23 Cardinals, 24 Commanders, 25 Giants. Does that sound about right?
I guess.
Did anyone in our tier 6 win a game? The Raiders lost in that ugly game.
Dolphins beat the crap out of the Bills.
They did. The Browns lost to the Jets, so the Jets did beat the Browns this week.
Browns going to drop.
Browns going to drop. Bengals had a bye week. They did not play. Dolphins won. Titans had a bye week as well, so they did not play. The Saints got a win. So several of these teams actually did win this week. What do you want to move around in our tier? What a tier is this now? Our tier 6 right now, Matt. How do you want to move around?
So are we leaving tier 5 the way it is?
I think tier 5 stays there with the Giants at 25. None of these teams are going to move up into that.
Okay, so then that takes us to tier 6, and this is going to actually be kind of fun. I think you move the Dolphins up.
Okay, to
26.
All right.
Because that's a really impressive win, and I feel like they've played well the last couple weeks.
They've played better. They're starting to turn it around. You know, Mike McDaniel, coach of the year.
They're still 3-7, but they've won 2 of their last 3. So
then what do we like? Do we move up the Jets or Saints for winning games? I still think the Jets are the worst team in football. The Bengals are also terrible. The Browns are terrible. The Raiders are terrible. But I'm fine kind of leaving them where they're at because I don't think anyone's really better than anybody else. We could reward the Saints for winning.
I just think that you move the Browns all the way down to below the bank. Or what did the Titans do this weekend? Did they get crushed or were they on a bye?
They were in a bye.
So they
Bengals
still have
a bye. Bengals were on a bye. Titans were on a bye.
Okay. I'm fine moving the Browns down below the Bengals.
Just moving those Ohio teams around.
and then the Saints above the Titans because they won a game.
Okay. So you move up there. All right. I mean, the Jets won too.
Yeah, but
we don't like them. No. They did trade away all their players. They did trade away all their players too. Remember?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So that puts us with the Dolphins at 26, Raiders at 27, Bengals at 28, Browns at 29, Saints at 30, Titans at 31, and Jets at 32.
Okay. Wait, who is 29?
29 is the Browns now.
They should be in tier 7. Yeah, I think that's right. We're really getting this thing honed in, Patrick.
We're getting it honed in. Yeah, the world now where you're like, well, if you're what's his name? Is Stefanski the coach over there in Cleveland? Am I thinking of the right guy?
Yeah.
But you're like, all right, if you're Stefanski and you end up now you're at the point where you're like, well, we normally would play our next quarterback, but if I play that quarterback and he's good, then I'm the ass for not playing him. Or I play him and he's terrible, and why did I play him? So my two options right now, there's no outcome that's good in this. I'm just screwed on this. Thanks for drafting Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, there's no recovery for them, I don't think, in any way, shape, or form. Stefanski's going to get fired. There's nothing he can do. If you play Shedeur Sanders, they're going to be they're still going to be terrible, and it's not going to do anything but sell a few tickets.
All right, let's take our second break, Matt. When we come back, we'll get to our meathead and wrap it up here on a Wednesday edition of Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
Hi, I'm Hayden Covert. Welcome to Covert Buick GMC of Bee Cave, your home in the Hill Country for new and pre-owned Buick and GMC vehicles. With beautiful inventory arriving daily, including the GMC Yukon, Sierra 1500, and Buick Enclave, you'll be certain to find the perfect vehicle at an incredible deal. Our service department is also open for all your vehicle maintenance needs. Visit us today for a test drive. Covert, born and raised in Austin. We are professional grade.
Altstadt Beer, the best beer that you can find all throughout the great state of Texas. Y'all know I've been a fan of Altstadt for years now, and if you try it, I think you will be too. If you've already tried it, you know exactly what I am talking about. Altstadt is brewed locally in Fredericksburg, but available all over the state of Texas. So if you're tuned in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, it does not matter. You can find Altstadt at a local grocery store or liquor store. They've got a bunch of different brews, something for every beer drinker out there. The Lager, the Kolsch, those are their two flagship beers, both award winners. They are fantastic. The Altstadt Light sacrifices on calories but does not sacrifice on the taste. They've got great pills, tons of great seasonals as well. I'm telling you, one sip and you won't go back to the other beers you've been drinking in the past. It is the official beer of BK. It should be the official beer of you as well. It's Altstadt Beer. No impurities, no regrets.
Hey y'all, I'm Camille McKay.
And I'm Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations.
The old man and I are here to give you your summer weather forecast. It's hot.
That's right, kid.
Which means it's time for pool parties, grilling burgers, and taking a beach vacation, right?
Well, I don't know about a vacation, but Audiovisual brings more heat than any tropical destination.
It was worth a shot. I'll settle for some outdoor speakers.
You know, Audiovisual can do a lot more than that. We provide outdoor video screens, audio systems, landscape lighting, even solar shades for your patio to keep the Texas heat at bay.
Well, I'm sold. Let's wrap this up. I'm ready to lounge on a floaty and listen to some smooth jazz.
Well, that sounds wonderful, but some smooth reggae is the way to go this summer.
Good thing we can listen to both with the Sonos sound system. I call dibs on the floaty, though. Peace out.
Kid, wait a second. Give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit us at avconsultations.com. That's 512-255-8678.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered, wrapping it up on a Wednesday afternoon. I've got a good meathead and a bad meathead today, Matt, for you. We got some good stuff coming up again tomorrow. We will get into wrapping up the week because Matt will be traveling on Friday. So a lot of stuff happening tomorrow. Then we'll have another guest coming on, guest host coming on Friday. And we'll continue on talking about Texas and Georgia. So you get 2 days of cram pack as we get ready for a crazy weekend in SEC play and a crazy weekend for Texas because it's a big one. It is a big one. Everyone I've kind of talked to and run into some people around and maybe texted with a few people this week, and it's like, oh, this is a big one. Because everything else has been like, can we get there? This one feels winnable, feels more winnable than it would have felt probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it is it's really do or die time right now for Texas. So we'll get more into that tomorrow. But let's get to our meatheads, Matt. First one, let's hit this one. This one I love seeing. Here is Texas lifetime Longhorn Moro Ojimo playing in the Monday night game. And we knew he was a smart guy when he played at Texas, Matt. But seeing the Eagles are starting to figure that out too.
It's Jacobs. Flag flies. Jacobs is brought down.
What we saw there was Moro Ojimo against the Packers calling the play and then jumping into the hole.
Yep.
Where he goes, hey, they're running an inside zone. He's running it this way. And then he splits 2 defenders and just completely shuts down where the Packers are trying to run the football. There's a lot of guys in the NFL who can do this and can pick plays and do this. It's really impressive to watch a guy who's really young in the league and Moro Ojimo be able to do it from the line of scrimmage and be the guy in command of that defensive line to tell them what's happening. Love to see it from a guy that's the Longhorn, and he's one of those guys that we just remember, you know, when you got to deal with him and when you saw his interviews and stuff with Texas, he's just such a special kid.
Yeah, I every time he was available for media after games and things like that, I always was really excited because he put such thought into his answers, and he was obviously such a smart guy. So it's really impressive. Like he's in his second, third year in the NFL, and he's already doing stuff like that. Those are the kinds of things that you see linebackers like Luke Kuechly used to do, calling out stuff like that. So it's really impressive, and I'm happy for him. He's an awesome dude. Just hate that he plays for the Eagles.
I do too. Shout out Longhorn in Lubbock on the text line. First of all, he brought up the good point. I forgot I was going to mention this earlier, forgot. But he says great heavyweights know the other has knockout power. And that was in the conversation we were having about not showing your hand too early in the game. You don't necessarily want to go out there and with somebody who can knock you out early in the game. So spoken very well there. And then he also says, Patrick, you just gave the answer to the biggest difference between the SEC and Big Ten versus any team in the Big 12. We're playing linear of the 3 phases of the game versus schemes against all 3, whereas a Tech is playing a high school offense versus junior high defenses, which is not 100% true, but I like it.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, I mean, I think that in the case of BYU specifically, they got exposed because they're not as good of a football team as everybody thinks they are, especially the Big 12 lovers out there who, like I saw a tweet earlier today. It was Houston is 8-2 with a loss to the number 6 team and 1 bad loss. Texas is 7-2 with a loss to the number 1 team and a bad loss. Texas is number 10 number 9 in the number 10 in the college football playoff. Houston's not ranked. Make it make sense. It's like, okay, they have 2 top 10 wins. They lost to the number 1 team in the country by a score, and all of their strength of schedule and strength of record metrics are leagues beyond Houston. It's not that hard to understand.
No, I saw that tweet, and it's silliness. But it is. It's, you know, you can always, and look, I used to work for Texas when we were Big 12, and you would find ways to make it work. And in sports media and stuff, a lot of times you can find ways to go, this is how I make my point. It's a little bit easier in the SEC. We do have SEC bias that we do think these teams are better, but it's because when you watch the games, we watch Big 12's games for a long time, and then we watch SEC games, and you're like, no, it's just tougher to get a lot of things done in the SEC. And when it happens, the level of talent at making it happen is usually a greater level of talent. And we see neutral games in meaningful moments. So regular season games, not necessarily bowl games. We see the SEC show up and be really a really good team and a really good conference. So I get it. The fact is, like, look, if you want to argue that Houston should be ranked, that's fine. If you want to argue they should be ranked above Texas, that's insane.
It's ridiculous. Texas would beat Houston 75 to 10.
Yeah, of course they would. I mean, now granted, a couple of years ago, we maybe needed a good spot or a bad spot to, be able to win, but different team now. All right, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow, giving some picks, giving some other good, getting us ready for Texas versus Georgia and a whole lot more. So until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more from Open Gym.